published 35 research papers in various journals and presented 60 national seminars. Presented his paper in 60 national seminars. And he has attended 22 international conferences in various countries such as Dubai and Sri Lanka. And he has contributed 45 articles in various edited books. And he has organized 3 national seminars and 1 virtual international conference. Besides that, he had contributed many chapters and books to the Telugu Academy.
తిరువెంగళ చారి ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడతాడు, ఆయన ఇంట్రడక్షన్ ఇదంతా. అయ్యో వినరాదండి.
Somebody,
Susmita garu, please mute yourself. Okay, I have muted, sir. Please.
So he had conducted project works, one minor research project under UGC, and as a result of all these both academic as well as administrative activities, he has given the state best teacher award by government of Telangana in the year 2017, and he is also at present executive editor of a very prestigious journal, the biannual National Journal of Commerce and Management. So, sir, Dr. Tiruvengala Chari, sir, I cordially invite you to our college to present your lecture on this August evening. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. So, I invite Dr. D.T. Chary garu to take over the session. Sir, welcome, sir.
Thank
you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Ramesh, sir. Good evening, all. At the outset, I thank Dr. Nabur, sir, for making my profile very beautiful. Thank you, sir, for nice introduction. Just I'm a simple teacher like you all. Research, I feel I consider myself as a passion. That is, I have been roaming across different places to present papers, also write articles in different national as well as international journals. So, President of today's program, Vice Principal Mr. Jeevan Kumar, who happened to my colleague at KDC, Kakte Government Degree College, Hanmakonda. Thanks to this webinar organizer, seeing my friend as principal and speaking on this occasion. Thank you, Jeevan, sir. And convener of the program, Madam Anjani, IQAC coordinator, SRINIVASA BJNR College, Autonomous Khammam. Co-convener, Sri Sambashiva Rao, head of the department, Hindi. Moderator, Dr. Chaitanya, assistant professor of botany. My friend, can you please Ramesh, sir? My friend Dr. SRINIVASA, head of the department Zoology, SRINIVASA BJNR College. Learned faculty members of all the departments of SRINIVASA BJNR College, Khammam. Esteemed participants and delegates. And co-resource person, Dr. Kankipad Srinivasa Rao garu. Good evening, one and all. At the outset, I feel very much delighted and privileged to participate in this webinar being organized by IQAC of SRINIVASA BJNR College, Khammam. Really dealing with a topic like how to write a research article, more particularly for the teachers of higher education, is very difficult, I feel. Because almost all the teachers They are engaged in research paper writings. They are also participating in various conferences and seminars. They have put up a lot of exposure in involving themselves in research activities. Almost all the faculty members, they have done their MPhil and PhDs. So simply, just with an invitation from Madam Anjani, so I could dare enough to present a brief elements regarding making the article presentation or writing of research article in a lucid way, in a simple way. I try my best to give the best of my parts. If any beginner is there in the webinar, at least things will become smooth and simple so that they can dare enough to write a good research article. Nowadays, there is a constant demand for various bodies and academic forums, writing of research paper as well as presenting themselves in various conferences and publishing them in various journals at national as well as international level. When we call writing of a paper,
Sir,
can you mute?
sir, we can't heard your voice, sir. వినలేకపోతున్నాం సార్, కట్ అయిపోతుంది వాయిస్ ఈ జూమ్ వల్ల.
No, someone is using their audio, that's why some disturbance.
Madam, is it okay? Is it audible?
సార్ నాట్ ఆడిబుల్ సార్. మీది కట్ అయిపోతుంది సార్ వాయిస్ గోల వల్ల.
Anjali madam,
ఓకే ప్లీజ్ ఆల్ అన్మ్యూట్. Please do the unmute micro, unmute the phone.
All the participants to mute themselves so that we can hear the resource person easily. If someone is disturbing
Yes, madam.
we can't hear it properly. So I request all the participants to please mute yourself, please.
Okay, ma'am.
Sir, you can continue, sir.
Okay. Thank you, madam. So, taking up this task of presenting to the teachers of higher education, like writing of research paper, of course, is a dare step, but we'll try our best to the best of our efforts. So before going to the major part of procedural aspects of writing of research paper, let us classify the various kinds and categories of academic research. Basically, academic research can be classified broadly into three categories. One is descriptive versus analytical, applied versus fundamental, qualitative versus quantitative, conceptual versus empirical. These are the four broad areas of academic research. Generally, descriptive research includes surveys and the fact-finding inquiries of different kinds. The major purpose of descriptive research is description of that state of affairs as it exists at present. So already things have been there. We are not trying to explore anything new. Just we have been trying to describe the actual facts, actual contents, actual information, whatever it is available. That is called descriptive research. Whereas analytical research, the research has to use facts or information which is already available and analyze these makes a critical evaluation of the facts. So the difference between the descriptive and analytical research is, the descriptive research is ex post facto research. We can call descriptive research as ex post facto research. So the main feature of this descriptive research is the researcher has no control over the variables. We cannot change the variables. We cannot modify the variables. Whatever the variables which are there, which are given in the study, just we will analyze. We will explore various facts about the variables. But various analytical research, we can analyze the pros and cons. We can also analyze the cause and effect relationship between variables. So that is the difference between descriptive and analytical. All empirical studies probably may come under this analytical research category. Then coming to the next category, applied versus fundamental research. Applied research aims at generally finding a solution for an immediate problem faced by a society or a business organization. Generally, society may be facing different problems. For example, for the last 10 months, you have been facing the pandemic situation. So you can relate the same thing, you can apply the same context for different environmental conditions. This is called applied research. Whereas in case of fundamental research is simply gathering of knowledge for knowledge's sake. A fundamental research is also called as a pure research because it may be sometimes applied for a scientific studies like mathematical, physical science and life sciences. We can apply this concept of fundamental research. There is another category like qualitative as well as quantitative research. Majority of the social science research comes under the broad category of qualitative research. Quantitative research may be generally applied for mathematical as well as engineering research areas. Purely quantitative information taken from the different sources, and we also draw some quantitative references. Then we'll come out with certain findings or solutions or conclusions. That is quantitative research. Most of the studies, social science as well as behavioral science research, are related with qualitative research. Then another area of academic research is conceptual as well as empirical research. Conceptual research means studying of theoretical parts. Suppose we are studying the higher education system in Telangana or higher education system in India. This is called as a conceptual research. Purely theoretically we are studying, where based on the theoretical information and the logical reasoning, we just come out with some ideas, or different ideas may be generated. Whereas empirical research means conducting of some surveys, drawing some conclusions. Based on the survey result, we will come out with probable opinions. That is called empirical research. Empirical research, we do conduct some survey based on certain questionnaire or some interview method or observation method. We use some statistical techniques and we draw some conclusions, and some findings or conclusions may be drawn. So if you undertake some survey, most of the application oriented research is empirical research, we can say broadly. So these are the various types and the categories of research. Apart from these 4 broad categories, we have some case study method of research, historical research, experimental and quasi-experimental research, single subject oriented research, a casual comprehensive related research. These are the different categories of which are part of other categories of research. Then coming to the publication of research article, generally this is a general format being universally accepted by different authors and scholars. First, before writing the article, we have to look at what is the basic problem of the statement, that is background of the problem. Without any problem, here problem means the problem to be studied, the problem under investigation. First of all, we have to identify what is the importance of the study, what exactly you want to explore, what do you want to investigate. So first of all, we have to identify the outcome, what you are exactly expecting, what is the burning problem behind your study. First of all, we have to investigate. Then based on the problem that is being identified, investigated, you have to collect various sources of data, that is called a review of literature. What is the already data that has been done in the particular area which is under survey. Suppose if the particular problem we have been studying, if any related data that has been already conducted, already submitted, already available, we have to get some related data, that is called a review of literature. Then methodological part, how to conduct the survey, how to conduct the study, who are the expected participants from whom we can collect the data, what type of data we need to collect, how to analyze the data, what are the expected outcomes or results. So what the data is going to be indicated. So this is analysis part. Then finally results. What are the implications of the study? How these are going to agree or disagree with the previous research cases. So what are the limitations? If any limitations are there with the study, identify any limitations. So this general format of the research publication should contain these elements: background of the problem, literature review, methodological part, analysis part, results and findings. So this is the flow chart that is commonly applied for writing of a research paper. The research process includes defining the research problem, as I said, then review of the literature. So here literature is concerned two parts: review of the concepts and theories, review of previous research studies which are already taken in the area of study. So then formulate the hypothesis. So if the problem is under investigation, we have to, if at all, if you want to test the validity of the data that have been collected, we have to formulate the hypothesis. Then research design, which includes sample design, sources of data, then methodological part. Once the sample design is over, collect the data collection part. Once the data has been collected, we have to analyze the data. Then finally, you have to interpret, then report writing. So this is the broad flow chart which is being followed for writing of a research article in general. As far as the writing of research article is concerned, I would like to say here few comments. Writing of research article generally varies from discipline to discipline. Most of the cases, as far as this presentation is concerned, we are confining ourselves. The methodology which we have been presenting in this webinar is purely, or most of the cases, applied for social science research or business management as well as commerce related research. Because methodological part, application part of the research writing parts, it varies from discipline to discipline. If you take the example of life sciences and other physical sciences and computer applications, certain methodology may be different. If you take the languages, their methodology may be different. But this is the broad structure everyone has to follow when you want to write a paper. But these are the 100% we can apply and we can relate to the social science research as well as commerce and management research side. Some variations may be there once if you relate with sciences as well as other languages. So this is the structure, what exactly we are going to adopt today, what we are going to cover today. The structure of the research, writing of a research article includes title of the paper, then next abstract, then followed by introduction, then review of literature, statement of the problem. Then we have to clearly specify objectives of the study. Then you have to take up the methodology, then analysis or discussion, then findings or results, finally conclusions. At the end, we have to show some references. If any tables you want to substantiate, you want to show, tables also may be given at the end, figures, any appendix, etc. may be shown at the end. This is the general structure of a research paper. As I told, it can be applied for social science as well as commerce and business management related. Even for conceptual related, papers also, generally the same structure can be followed. Initially, we should start with some title. So one thing we have to remember while selecting the title of the paper, see that ours is not a doctoral or MPhil dissertation. The title of the paper generally should reflect what exactly we are going to study. Once the title has seen by the outsider or the reviewer or editorial member or the reader exactly, they should understand what exactly we are going to present in the research paper. That is why do not select the topic which is too technical or vague. If the topic is too technical, which the reader is not able to understand what exactly we are going to mean, there is no use at all. Sometimes some people they want to keep their title ambiguously. We don't understand what exactly the researcher want to tell. Once the whole story, when the whole paper is complete, then only we can understand, okay, this may be the intention of the researcher, what he want to present in that. That is why the title must be very apt for your research work. Then next, the title should not be too broad. Suppose if you take a survey, impact of COVID on higher education system in the world or in India, this is very too broad topic. Within a week or within a month or within 3 to 4 months, we cannot study or we cannot undertake any study on this topic. Right? We should keep in mind that the purpose of research is we want to make a paper. We don't want to make an MPhil dissertation. We don't want to make a PhD dissertation. First of all, before identifying the objectives, first you should identify the scope of your research. Once you decide the scope of the research, then it will be very easy to coin the title of the paper. That is why title should not be too broad. It must be specific. Generally, most of the topics, that is conceptual topics, are research papers, issues and challenges of higher education in India. Very, very, very broad topic. What exactly we are going to study with this, we don't know. That is why just by seeing the topic, the reader or the person whom it is intended should understand the purpose of your article, the purpose of your research must be very clear. That is why title should reflect the whole research. Generally, another one, the topic should represent the whole research work. By seeing the topic, the purpose of the research should be able to understand. So this is most important. Just by seeing the topic, what exactly we are going to undertake in your research paper must be very clearly spelled out. The topic must be very catchy and looks something interesting. Coining of the research topic also is most important. By seeing the topic itself, the outside person should feel that, okay, something is interesting, something is looking interesting, something is catchy, so I want to read this paper. That is why interest must be generated or interest must be created by seeing the title itself. So drafting of title of the research paper is also most important. We have to take precautions right from the beginning of the identification of and the coining of the topic itself. Then next one, once the topic is completed, write down your name, affiliation, college affiliation, full college address, then mail ID, phone number, etc. must be written. Then followed by abstract. Generally, abstract is the summary which represents the whole research activity of your study. Once the abstract is read by the authors or other readers, they can understand what exactly the researcher is going to present or intended to present. So the overall purpose of the study of the research problem is investigated should be included. So generally in the abstract, people what they do, they write around 150 to 200 sentences or words, or they will keep one paragraph and they will close the abstract. No, abstract writing of abstract itself is a major element. So in the abstract, these elements should be included. the overall purpose of the study of the research problem, what exactly the researcher is going to investigate it should be there. And problem of the study as well as what exactly you are going to identify must be identified in the abstract. The basic research design of the study also must be spelled out in the abstract. Few major findings, one or two findings, or the broad findings, or the trend, what exactly the study is going to follow also must be reflected in the abstract. Again, brief summary of your interpretation and final conclusion part, one or two conclusion findings part also should be reflected in the abstract. Finally, at the end of the abstract, 4 to 5 keywords also should be given. As far as the size of the abstract is concerned, the abstract, it should vary between 250 to 300 words. So depending upon the journal and the type of and the purpose of the study which you are going to undertake. But in general, the abstract should not go pages by pages. It should confine within one page. It should lie in between 250 to 300 words. And the abstract should also include the major summary of the whole paper. Once the reader has read your abstract, it should identify what exactly we are intended to do and what we have done. So that is why most of the conferences, most of the seminars, initially they call abstracts only. Based on the quality of abstract, they can assess what we have undertaken, what we have studied, what we have investigated. Then finally, they will convey their acceptance or rejectance order. That is why we should take enough care while drafting of abstract itself. So if at all, if you want to have the practice just to read 5 to 6 abstracts in standard journals. So abstract clearly spelled out the very basic purpose of the study and broad methodology and few key findings, and some conclusion part also must be reflected. Initially, in the beginning opening remarks of the abstract, the contextual framework of the topic also must be given initially. Then what abstract should not contain? This is also most important. Without knowing, some unnecessary information we may be adding in the abstract. Lengthy background or contextual information. As I told, it should not run to the pages together. It should confine into only one page within the given broad limitations of the words. Then redundant phrases, unnecessary adverbs, and repetitive information should be avoided. Then any acronyms or abbreviations also should be avoided. References to other literature also should be avoided in abstract. Using elliptical, that is ending with quotes or incomplete sentences, should be avoided. Jargons or terms that may be confusing to the reader also should be avoided. Technical jargons, terms which may be confusing to the reader also should be avoided. Citations to the other works also should be avoided. We should not give any citations in the abstract itself. Any sort of images, illustrations, figures or tables or references relating to these tables or references should be avoided. So this is most important aspect. Once you adhere to these rules, automatically we can draft a beautiful abstract. Once the abstract is read by the readers, simply we can have the first impression, automatically that will be the best impression. Another important aspect, majority of the research they do is, initially we write abstract in the beginning, but it may be applicable for the matured researchers. But as technical process of the research paper is concerned, you have to write the abstract only at the end of the paper. Once the whole paper is completed, once the whole draft of your research article is completed, then you have to come to the abstract. Many good researchers are there in the webinar, like Professor Malyade sir. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but as far as the entire text and the draft is completed, the whole paper is completed, then you have to, because we are including all information related to the objectives, statement of the problem, little findings, conclusions, or few methodological aspects, everything we are including the abstract. That is why always it is suggestible and better to write the abstract once the whole paper is finalized. This is my suggestion. Then coming to the next part, introduction. So once the abstract and the title and your affiliation should be kept in one page, in the first page. From the second page onwards, you should start like introduction. So here introduction, you should introduce the topic. Suppose if you are taking a research topic like behavioral aspects of the students during the COVID era with a reference to higher education institutions in Warangal district or in Khammam districts. This is the study of your research topic. So we have to introduce some theoretical aspects relating to your topic in the introduction part. You should provide background information about the topic also in this introduction part. Create some context and background. Under what context, under what circumstances we are taking up this study also, you should be able to present in the introduction part. Tell your reader about the research plan which you are carrying out in the entire process of research in your article. What is the rationale of your study also must be reflected in the introduction part. Explain why your research is important. This is most important aspect which we forget in most of the cases, but why we are taking up the research, importance of the research with reference to your topic also must be stated and specified in the introduction part. Again, citations. If you are citing any other theoretical concepts, if you are quoting any theoretical concept related to your topic from other studies, we have to cite thoroughly, but not excessively. Don't forget that we are writing a research paper which may vary from around 8 to 10 to 12 pages. It is not a PhD dissertation. Once we are keeping the same thing in our minds, so we can go for only few citations which are very strong and related to this reference to our topic of subject of research. Then we confine ourselves only very few and limited and perfect citations also should be given in the introduction part. Then coming to this review of literature. This is the most important element. Most of the cases, review of literature, people, what they do, they just search in their website, Google, they download 10 to 15 review of literature relating to our topic, simply they dump in our article. Yes, exactly. This is not the way of writing a research article. Literature review may consist of simply a summary of key sources. But in the social sciences, a literature review usually has an organizational pattern that combines both the summary and the synthesis. There is a difference between the summary and synthesis. Summary is a recap of the important information of the source. Whatever the important information that we have generated, collected, it is the recap of the information. But in the synthesis, it is reorganization or reshuffling, restructuring of the data, whatever you have collected. Okay, that is why we must be very meticulous about when you are writing of literature review and selecting the source of literature also from different various sources. Simply, it is not dumping from the Google and related to your topic. So what exactly related studies have taken place with reference to your topic in other areas, in other fields? We have to take this type of literature. Most of the cases, your topic may be something, your study may be related to something, your review of literature never be related to your topic as well as your study. There is no coincidence between your review of literature and your topic and your study. There is no purpose of gathering of such information. The basic purpose of review of literature is to identify the gap of your research. What exactly you are intended to study? What is the problem of your study? What exactly you are going to investigate? Same problem somebody has studied. What is the meaning of your study? What is the meaning of your study? I want to study student perceptions at SR and BJN college with reference to so and so. After post-COVID, how the students are taking the things. I want to study. The same study has been taken up by somebody else. What is the basic purpose of undertaking the same study by yourself? You can get it Xerox copy, no? That is why the purpose of the research must be, the purpose of review of literature is to identify the gaps. I want to investigate so-and-so study, topic or research, whether such type of research has been undertaken so far elsewhere, somewhere else, or any related studies have been taken up in the same fields. Is there any gap between the present research and the research already done by other people, other scholars? If no such research has been taken up in this field, what is the gap that is being expected or identified? Once you identify the gap, you have to fill your gap with your work, with your research, with your article. That is the basic purpose of taking up the research. So identifying the gap is most important. So in order to identify a gap, first we have to collect the related review research. Then narrow your topic and select papers accordingly. Broad topic should not be taken while collecting the review of literature. We have to narrow down, then select related, closely related papers according to your topic. Then search for literature from different sources. Read the selected articles thoroughly and evaluate them. Simply, in majority of the research, while writing the articles, researchers never read the past studies. Once you read the studies, automatically we can get some idea about we can get some new thoughts and new ideas, new concepts, new philosophies that may emerge automatically for a new problem. That is why thoroughly we have to read all the research review what we have collected. Outline your literature reviews in a structured manner. Then write your literature review on different bases. There are different bases: chronological order, conceptual basis, methodological basis. There are different, every topic is a very broad area. Even on abstract, we can speak for 1 hour. On review of literature, we can speak 2 to 3 hours. On methodology, we can speak 3 to 4 hours. On findings analysis, we can speak 3 to 4 hours. On analysis part and application part, we can talk 3 to 4 hours. The research methodology itself is a very broad area. That is why I told in the beginning, we are daring enough presenting in a 1 or 2 hour time span all the related aspects, more particularly to the scholarly teachers who are already having exposure in the research process. That is why just we are outlining the things. Then statement of the problem and objectives of the study. This is the heart of the research. First of all, we have to identify what is the problem that has been under investigation. What you want to study. What are the basic objectives of your study or research? So a statement of the problem outlines the problem addressed by the study. A good research problem should address the existing gap in knowledge in the field of which may lead to further research. As I told, if you go on reading all the past reviews of research, automatically we can get some idea to pursue other related research in different dimensions. We can study the same problem with other dimensions. It becomes automatically a good paper. Approach may be different. You can adopt a new methodology. You can apply new tools of testing. You can take different type of data. Suppose some people have studied in metropolitan cities. You come down to rural and study the same problem in the rural area. Things may not be the same. That is why if you read literature reviews, automatically we can identify the gap in knowledge in the same field and which may lead to further research. That will be the automatically the statement of the problem or maybe your objectives. To write a persuasive problem statement, you need to describe the idea, the reality, and the consequences. So a good research problem should have the following characteristics. The basic things which we have to follow. It should address the gap in knowledge. It should be significant enough to contribute to the existing body of research. It should lead to further research. Certainly a good research problem it should lead to further research also. That is where at the end of doctoral thesis, we will write scope for further research. Then only a good research problem certainly should be able to lead for further research also. Then the problem should render itself to the investigating through collection of data. It should be of interest to the researcher, and the skills or time and resources. The approach towards the solving the problem should be ethical. This is most important. So your here thesis has given, your statement should exactly your position. Your research statement at the end of the first paragraph, make sure the thesis statement reflect the paper that you are writing. Your problem and the study must reflect your whole story of the research article. Your statement must be precise and concise. That is most important. Your problem that is understudied or statement of the research problem must be very precise and concise. Now I am coming to the next and most important topic, methodological part. Research methodology is the most important element in the entire research. How you are taking the things, what type of data which you are collecting, how you are proceeding your research, how you are undertaking your research. So this is the methodological part. So which includes sample size and sampling techniques, source of data collection, methods of data analysis, scope for further, scope of the study, period of the study, the tools and techniques which are used or applied in the study. Your methodology covers all these broad areas. Again, every point itself is scope for further discussion. Sample size, depending upon the topic, depending upon the purpose, statement of the problem, depending upon the objectives of your study, the sample size should be identified. Suppose if you want to study 10,000 students in India, impact of COVID on educational habits due to post-pandemic situation, can you study the 10,000 students? Can you take? The sample size is too large. The paper, you are writing a research paper which is supposed to be completed within a 2 months to 3 months time, hardly 4 months time. So the sample size is the most important criteria that must be kept in mind while you are drafting out a research paper. The sample size may vary from research to research. If it is an MPhil, sample size should be something different. If it is a PhD, sample size must be something different. As it is a research article, sample size can be minimal. So what are the sampling techniques which you are adopting? There are wide variety of sampling techniques may be applied. So this is, in this short span, we cannot go probably. Professor Srinivasa may address the sampling techniques, few sampling techniques. The source of data collection. There are broad areas through primary data as well as secondary data. So depending upon the nature of the study that has been investigated, you can identify the sources. If the study demands secondary data, you have to collect the secondary data. If the study demands primary data, you have to collect the primary data. So depending on the topic and depending on the problem that has been under study, depending upon the objectives of the study, we have to collect the data. So what are the sources of data? How to collect the data? What are the various methodologies for collecting the data? Whether to collect the data through questionnaires, through surveys, or through observations, through investigations, or through interviews. Different techniques may be there. Then methods of analysis. Again, data analysis part. Before that, you have to, if the data has been collected through primary sources, we have to tabulate, then finally analyze the data. Before that, you have to identify the scope of the study. As it is the research paper we are focusing, the scope of the study must be minimum. We should not take the scope of the study very broad and very wide. The researcher must note that we are writing the research paper. That is why the scope must be very limited. As well as the period of the study is also concerned. If at all we want to study 10 to 15 years data, it is not possible within a span of 2 to 3 months to complete the research paper or research article. That is why period of the study also most important. Then availability of the data. The period of the study you may be taking for 10 years. Suppose we want to study the bank reports. So if you want to analyze the NPA performance of so and so banks, both public sector and private sector banks, very big topic. Even for doing the PhD itself, it will take 2 to 3 years time. How can you confine the same topic, taking of the NPA performance of bank with reference to public and private sector bank, comparing the last 10 to 15 years data? Highly impossible for writing a research article with such type of data. That is why period of the study also must be taken into account. Then tools and techniques applied, what type of tools we are using. Again, it is also depending upon the type of data which we are collecting. So for primary data, few techniques may be applicable. For secondary data, few techniques may be applicable. For particular type of data and particular situation, only particular, depending upon the sample size, few tools and techniques may be applied. That is why this is also another broad area. Then if you see this research methodology, these are the 4 broad areas. Research philosophy. A researcher first of all has to identify what is the philosophy of your research. Then research applications, whether it is deductive applications or inductive applications. 1 minute. Then research structure. Then research strategies, time horizon, data collection. These are the different structure which we have to follow before taking up the methodological parts. First, research philosophy, the positive research, realism research, interpretive research. So these are the philosophy of the research. Then research approach, what type of approach the researcher want to study, also most important. It includes inductive and deductive approach. As a researcher, you need to choose between these two for your study, whether you want to go for an inductive approach or whether you want to go for a deductive approach. Inductive approach allows you to form a new theory based on the gathered data, already generated data. That is called inductive approach. Whereas a deductive approach helps to make sure if already gathered data aligns with the existing theories. That is called a deductive approach. Deductive, the existing data, whether it is aligning with the existing theories or not. Whatever the data which you are gathering, whether it is aligning with the existing theories or we are trying to test out. So this is called a deductive approach. So this is called a new methodology of teaching. Then research strategies. What type of strategies, research strategies which you want to include? So which includes nature of the research and the sources of the data which you want to gather based on the objectives of your study. So based on the nature, the data can be qualitative data and quantitative data. Based on the, as per the research strategies are concerned, as per the nature of the study, there may be 2 types of data, qualitative data and quantitative data. Other hand, the source of data is concerned, there may be primary data and secondary data. So that is the type of strategy which you want to adopt as far as the research is concerned. Then time horizon, as I told, those are cross-sectional data or longitude data, null data, what type of time horizon you want to select. Some studies demands longitudinal data. Certainly, inevitably, you need to go for longitudinal data. So that is why some studies, they require cross-sectional data. You have to go for cross-sectional data also. Then finally, data collection. So there are different types of data collection. So sampling methods are there. Within the sampling methods, again, some categories of sampling methods are there. So secondary data is there, observation methods are there, interview methods are there, questionnaires are there. So this is I want to confine myself up to this part because I want to give time to other speaker also. Before winding up my presentation as far as this methodological part, I would like to comment, just I will take another 3 to 4 minutes. I will confine because I want to give you some tips relating to the presentation of the paper or writing of the research paper. So here, how many articles we are writing in a year? How many articles you are publishing is not the matter of the fact. As personally, I feel that the quality is most important rather than the quantity. I take an example of Professor Sri K. Prahalada. Long back in 1990 has published an article in Harvard Business Review. Just with one article which has been published in Harvard Business Review, he coined a new concept which is called core competencies. With this single article he published in Harvard Business Review during 1990 periods, he became world popular. He was one of the greatest gurus of management, gurus of Indian as well as a global level. So your articles must be like that. You may be publishing few articles, one or two, but you should be able to coin new terms. You must be able to generate new things like C.K. Prahalada. C.K. Prahalada is memorized and remembered for his core competencies. With the publication of this article in the Harvard Business Review, he has become a global popular personality. That is why not only Harvard Business Review, also if you look at like Sage publications at IIM standards, all IIMs, they have their own publications. If you look at the articles, these articles are very, very unique in nature. There may be a conceptual articles, there may be an empirical research studies. It is not question whether it is a conceptual related study or whether it may be an empirical studies. But every article is a unique article. Just if you go through any past editions of the Harvard Business Review or IIM journals, these articles are no single article concept is not repeated. Not article exactly, never article, any published article may be repeated. But that concept, related concept also may not be repeated in any of these journals. That is the uniqueness. So that is why if at all, if you want to develop yourself to that level, what we need to do, I want to suggest a few tips as my part. First, read. As I told in the part of the review of literature, suppose you want to study some problem or an issue, try to collect maximum amount of data or information relating to your topic or research that is being undertaken. Then try to read and focus on reading of these points and identify what exactly that is there in the uniqueness that is there in the problem. In every paper, you can find some uniqueness. In every paper, you can find some uniqueness. First, you identify the uniqueness of that paper. Automatically, if you try to read around 60 to 70 papers rigorously, automatically with the congregation of these papers, you can come out with some new solution or new idea or new concept and new thoughts. With that new thought, you can publish a new article. That is my observation. That is my philosophy of research. Then spend maximum time of reading of the papers. Then once the whole draft is completed, revise. Within a week, within a month, a good article cannot be completed. If at all, if you want to publish a standard, a good quality research paper, minimum 4 to 6 months time will be taken. If at all, if you want, I'm repeating, if at all, if you want to publish a standard, good quality article, which you want to get it published in most established and standard journal, either it may be national or international, but it will take minimum 4 to 6 months time. So during this time, you have to revise. You complete the first draft. Again, you go on reading it. You may get some new thoughts, new approaches, new methodologies, new philosophies. Again, revise it. Again, you read it. Again, revise it. Once the whole draft is completed, just you give it to your friend or your colleague. Simply, they will read and they will also pass some comments. You incorporate these comments, automatically you can revise, you can make it very strong. Don't forget to focus on international readers. Nowadays, we are living in the globalization context. Whatever we are writing, it may be published in online, from anywhere, from any source, at any level, at any sections. There is a chance that people may draw your paper. That is why So you should not localize your paper. When you're drawing out, when you're making out a research paper, try to make it, and you also should take into account that even international readers also, foreign readers also may be looking at and maybe reading. There is a chances to read your papers also. That is one of the observations. See that your paper is within the limits of journal guidelines. That is also most important. Suppose you are publishing an article, sorry, you are writing an article and publishing in a particular journal, is a journal of marketing. Simply, it is a foolishness submitting a paper on finance or HR in marketing journal. That is why, apart from this, general guidelines also most important. Every journal, research journals, they have their own guidelines. When you are presenting and submitting a paper to the research particular journal, strictly we have to adhere to the guidelines scrupulously. Then we have to follow these guidelines. We have to adhere to these guidelines. Then only we have to send it to the particular journal. That is also most important. Sometimes wrongly we write journal in particular area, we submit the same thing in particular journal, automatically we may get rejection from that. That is why before that only, just ensure yourself, make sure yourself that whether we are following general guidelines in terms of writing of article, in terms of alignment, in terms of font, in terms of referencing, in terms of citation, everything you have to take care of. Then follow submission guidelines and submit it correctly. That is also most important. Every journal, again, they have same unique submission guidelines. Before submitting the paper, you should follow the unique guidelines that is being given by the general authorities. Reply promptly by the reviewer comments. Sometimes your article is sent for Scopus journals like or UGCK Group 1 journals. Automatically, if some editing is required, they will send you back. They will ask you to revise your paper as per the reviewer comments. They also put you along with paper reviewer comments to your mail. So we have to take care of the reviewer comments. You have to read it, understand it. You have to modify your paper according to the comments, reviewers, expectations and suggestions. Again, revise your paper. You resubmit your paper. So that is also most important. Ensure maximum number of downloads or see that you should get maximum number of citations of your paper. That is also most important. Nowadays, most of the research are focusing how many citations I am getting for my paper, how many references I am getting, or how many references other researchers are referring my paper for their studies. That is also important. The quality of the paper nowadays is being judged by the citations and the references by others. So this is also you should try to take into mind. So if somebody has to cite your paper must be unique, your paper must be innovative, your paper must be novel in terms of addressing the issues or problems which others are not focused. Then identify the reasons for rejection of paper if it is being rejected. Suppose sometimes you may get rejection by the editorial board. Identify, need not feel bad for being identified, rejected, because it may be one of the lessons or experiences for you, because with this experience you can just make sure that this type of errors or problem or types of errors may not be committed in future research. That is why make sure that these are what type of comments they have made for rejecting the paper also, so that we can ensure that this will not be repeated in future quotes. Even if you have a few publications, see that these are published in standard, most reputed journals. So all the very best. Once again, I thank organizers for giving this opportunity, for making this part of webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, sir. It is very pleasing and it is very interesting to listen to you, sir. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, sir, for you also, for sharing your valuable time with us. Now the session is open for any queries, sir. So 1 or 2 minutes we will give opportunity for participants.
Sir, let Kankipat sir has completed, because he is also, then we can have discussion part.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much, sir. But before I hand over to sir, let me tell in a nutshell what you have mentioned. This Dr. D.T. CHARY garu has addressed on various types of research and abstract, right from abstract to various tips. He has mentioned so many things. What an abstract should contain and what an abstract should not contain. How to begin your research article. How to write review of literature. How to go about it. And what are the various methodologies. And at last, but not the least, he has mentioned about various tips. So thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time. And now I invite Srimati P. Anuradha Garu to introduce our second resource person of the session, Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao. Anuradha madam, please take over.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for gathering here with us this evening. It's my privilege to introduce our today's resource person, Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao Garu. Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao Garu, working as Associate Professor in the Department of Commerce in a premier institute of Vivekavardhani College of Arts and Commerce, Science and Postgraduate Studies, Usman University, Hyderabad. Dr. Rao is an adjudicator and external examiner for several universities of their repute. Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao Garu authored 4 textbooks. He is a research guide for PhD scholars in several universities in the country, including Usman University, Hyderabad. Under his guidance, several PhDs awarded. He delivered many keynote addresses, performing as chairman, technical sessions, resource person, and as chief guest delivered inaugural addresses. Rao published 70 research papers in various national and international peer-reviewed journals, high-impact Scopus and UGC CHARY list journals. Dr. Rao got 25 years of outstanding teaching experience in various levels. Dr. Rao has got 25 years experience of outstanding teaching and research experience in various levels. Dr. Rao obtained his PhD from HNB Garhwal Central University, Srinagar, Uttarakhand, from the Department of Commerce in the year 2008 on the title of Impact of Information Technology in Banking Services, a case study of Punjab National Bank. His current research interest includes banking, CRM, rural development, skill development, marketing, entrepreneurial development, and HR. Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao visited several countries such as Malaysia, Thailand, Bangkok. Dr. Rao is an inspecting authority, Ministry of Minority Affairs, GOI, for 2 years to inspect vocational institutions under skill development. Dr. Rao is an recently, during the pandemic lockdown situations, delivered several speeches as resource person in many webinars on skill development, mentoring, counseling, online education, and national education policy 2020. He is associated with examinations, evaluation, and assessment activities in various levels of academics in universities, autonomous and affiliated colleges. He is a resource person for various universities such as IGNOU, Ambedkar Open University, Annamalai University for Management Studies. Dr. Rao is a member in Board of Studies Commerce at Usman University. He is a member in various professional bodies. Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao is a member in editorial boards for 25 national and international journals from various countries. Dr. Rao is trained program officer from GOI for national service schemes and conducted many programs in slums. Dr. Kankipati received 4 Best Teacher Awards for his excellence in academic records, which includes Telangana State Government Best Teacher Award in 2016. Dr. Srinivasa Rao has submitted 2 research projects to the minor and major to the University Grants Commission, New Delhi. Dr. Rao is an adjudicator and external examiner for several universities of their repute. With this brief introduction, I request Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao Garu to share his ideas on the art of writing research paper. Thank you, sir. I truly express my gratitude to you for accepting our invitation and taking out your precious time and about to share your expert opinion with all the participants gathered here. Over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam, for your kind words. First of all, I would like to thank SR and BGNR Government College, Khammam, Principal Sir Dr. KSS Ratnaprasad, and Vice Principal Garu, Kumar Garu, and convener of the program today's webinar, Dr. Anjali Madam, IQAC Coordinator, and co-convener, Dr. Atota Samshavrao Garu, head of the Department of Hindi, and moderator, Dr. CH Chaitanya Garu, Assistant Professor of Botany, and Ramesh Garu, all the organizers, and I would like to convey my best regards to our co-speaker, Dr. Chari Saab, Principal, Parkal Government Degree College, and thank you all the participants for participating in today's webinar. Now let us come to the today's topic, that writing of research papers. See, the writing of research paper, just before entering into the slides and all that, the research is very, very important nowadays, and we need to carry out the research along with the academics, to my mind. And it's very important. Why? Because you need, as a faculty, you need to balance the academics and research. Unless you have the research bent up in you, you cannot carry on the academics properly. Because academics requires critical analysis and, the critical thinking, critical analysis, innovations. These are all very important. Analytical thinking, these are all very important when you are in the field of teaching or academician, as an academician. So that is the reason all of us, is a high time to think about, to carry out along with the academics, the research also. Research activities should take up simultaneously. Of course, people says that, the faculty member says that they don't have time and all that, but you have to find time to take the research activities also along with the academics. It is compulsory, because the reason why we should be take along with the academics means we need to improve the critical thinking. We need to improve the analytical thinking. These are all very important. Today, we are all living in a society where the knowledge society. When you talk about knowledge society, we as a responsible people, faculty, we need to deliver proper inputs to the students. So we can only deliver the goods, proper inputs to the students when we are, as a faculty member, when we are associated with research activities along with the academics. That is only my opinion. And I hope all of you may agree with me. Now, with this introduction, let us go into today's topic, that is art of writing research papers, without wasting the time, because the time is very positive. Positive of time is there, because we need to discuss many things. So that is why, please bear with me for a second. I will share the screen. Am I audible? Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is clearly visible. You maximize it, sir. That's it.
Yeah. Right. As I told you, art of writing research paper. The outline of the paper, research paper, this includes research paper writing skills need, origin and selection of topic, process of writing research paper, title of the abstract, article, abstract, introduction, review of literature, sketch, the objectives of the study, formulation of hypothesis and types, research methodology, data analysis, tools, interpretation and presentation, results, discussions, writing, conclusions, and then reference. This is broad sketch that we have, as in the first session already explained about some of these aspects. Now, research paper writing skills, with a brief 1 or 2 minutes, I will go into the details of the writing of research papers. The need of the research paper, writing of research paper, is that to improve the skills, as I mentioned just now, we need to improve the skills as a faculty member to deliver properly the goods, the inputs to the students. So that is why research bent up is important for every faculty. So that is why the important things that are associated with this is the enhancement of knowledge enhancement. The research helps the faculty to enhance their knowledge towards the critical thinking and analytical thinking, what I mentioned just now. Analytical thinking, creative thinking, placements also. Nowadays, wherever you go for the job opportunities, the placements, they are asking about the research bent up also. So it is compulsory for the faculty to have the research bent up. Some publications and all that you need to acquire. You need to have it. So that is one thing. And then all of us know the APA score is nowadays playing a prominent role nowadays in our career as a faculty. Academic performance index. People are asking about it. What is your research activities along with the academics, the achievements and all that. So that is where for that purpose also this need is there. Writing of research papers and research bent up is important. And you have the secure research projects. There are many funding agencies are available. They are ready to give, they are ready to funding for many research projects. So that is why we need to grab there are opportunities. The only thing is we need to grab it. To grab them, what we have to do, we have to equip certain qualities with us. Then automatically it is not difficult at all. All of us can easily grab the opportunities. So secure research projects, fellowships are there, doctoral fellowship, postdoctoral fellowship, and you know the UGC funding agencies, senior fellows are there, like that, senior fellowships are there, like that, many things are there. We can all those inputs, all those sources that we can grab it once you have the research bent up. That is one area. Next, you have the institutional rankings around the college point of view. These are all NIRF, NAC, NBA, these are all accreditations are very important because before they award these rankings and all that, they insist about the faculty, about their research activities and all that. After seeing all those things only, they will offer the rankings to the institutions, to the colleges and to the institutions. And thesis submission, social responsibility. Finally, we have a social responsibility as a human being in the society. We need to contribute something to the society for its development, growth and development. It's our primary importance. So because the social responsibility, there are so many problems. We are all living in a society where there are so many problems, social problems are there. So we need to address, as a faculty, we need to address all those things, and we need to address them, and we have to give appropriate solutions to the problems that are happening in the society. For that purpose, what is required is the research is very important. And you have the next, the origin of selection of topic. Of course, these are all covered. I will just, whatever is covered, I will go a bit faster. Identity of the contemporary issues of your subject. You need to identify the latest topic, which are burning topics, which are very essential in today's society and all that. You have to choose it. Determine your audience, to whom the research, the activity that the researcher is going to take up the research work. What are the audience, target audience? You have to identify them, clarity of the broader subject, under which subject that you are going to take up the research work, and what is your interest, and unique and creativity, that you have to, as a researcher, you need to create an interesting in the reader's mind. So that is also very important. So on the basis of that, you need to select the topic. That is what the origin of the topic should be generated in the researcher mind. So that is one area. And you have the idea, problem. Also the idea has to be generated. Problems also be identified in the society. Then taking that problem, and you have to find out the root cause of those problems. And those are all the things that happens with the research only. And you have check the previous literatures on the topic. So if at all any literature that is available existing on the topic that you have selected as a researcher, you need to check into that available research areas, and then you have to study it, and then accordingly you have to identify the problem, not that, and identify the goal of the paper, purpose and all that also. What is your goal to making the research of a particular area, the concept. And you have the analyzing through research and facts finding, other solutions, and offer solutions. And finally, we need to, as a researcher, we need to give solutions also for better solutions for making policies, and to overcome from the problems of the certain problems of the problems in the society. Next, the process of research paper already covered. These are all the things: title, abstract, introduction, theory of literature, theory or literature review, objectives, hypothesis, research methods, process, result discussions, conclusion, limitations. These are all a structure that we have to maintain when you are going for preparation of the research paper. And the title, when you talk about title, this is also covered in the first session. Just a bit fast, I will move on it. So summarize the paper, 10 to 2 words, 10 to 12 words. The title is very, very important, should be attractive and interest, and it should cover the overall, the aspect of the overall idea of the paper. It has to cover, it should reflect in the title. That is one aspect. And you have the as short as possible and no short. It's not too short of the title, and it's not too lengthy. So like that, you have to finalize the title, and the title should reflect the entire paper that you are going to, research paper should reflect in the title, as I mentioned just now. And no technical jargon, these are all things that are covered in the previous session. Unique, memorable highlights, importance of the research, avoid duplication of the title. Duplication of the title also should not be there. These are all the care that you are supposed to take in the article, title of the article. And informative but concise, it should be very informative. When you look at the title, the reader should have automatically should generate some idea in his mind in such a fashion. The title has to be designed. That is one important thing. And enigmatic or catchy, as already mentioned in the previous session, convey main issues. The main issue of the problem that you are taking up, that should be mentioned. It should be catchy and should reflect in the title. That also must be very important, and that should be taken into consideration when you are making the title or finalizing the title. Avoid question marks and all that. Question marks should not be there in the title. If it is a question mark, then you yourself, the title is made a question mark, ambiguity, confusion if you make it. And the people think that what he can suggest if a question mark is mentioned or question mark is drawn in his title. Like that, the impression will come in the minds of the readers. So that should not be there. Next, you have the another important thing, abstract. What are the things that are to be there included in the abstract? Of course, in the session, the previous session covered, just I will move a bit too fast. Abstract is a trailer, the heart of your research paper. It should convey about the entire paper. You have to prepare it very carefully. You have to prepare about the abstract. Prepare abstract after the writing paper is already mentioned. Once you complete the paper, then only you have to think about the important, because in the entire paper you need to take certain findings and certain methodological issues of purpose and all those things in a one or two sentences manner. You have to grab them. You have to identify in the entire paper, and then you have to consolidate it, and you have to present it in the abstract. That is why that is also very important. And make it effective, interesting, easy to understand. Avoid citing the work of others in the abstract. No, there should not be any citations. It's an overall impression that about the paper that has to be incorporated. It's not that the citation should be incorporated. Citation should be avoided. That's one thing. Abstract should discuss about the topic of the research briefly. That already mentioned. Purpose in simple words, methodology, tools, software. The purpose should be mentioned in the abstract, should be there. Methodology should be mentioned with regard to tools, software, and review of literatures, and what you are going to review, and the tools that are you going to use, that also should be mentioned. And main findings, the main finding also in the total of your paper. What is your main finding? You have to identify and you have to put it in that abstract. So these are all the things. So next you have the application of this study, where the study is useful. Mention area for who are the targeted people, in which area your the research is going to be useful, and what is the contribution, what are the contributions of contribution from your paper, and who is going to benefit about it. So that has to be mentioned. Number one, that is another important point. And application of the study also in a one single sentence application of the study, where as I mentioned just now, where the study is to be implemented, or it is related to the related areas where you have to implement, and all that also to be mentioned. And novelty or originality of the study, some newness should be there. Already some people earlier, some researchers, they have found certain, offered some findings, and the same findings, if you just modify it and give it, there is no meaning of it. So something new should be there in your research. So that also should be in a single sentence, that should be mentioned in the abstract. So these are all very important things that the abstract should have. And finally, after the abstract, you have certain keywords should be identified. Say, for example, 5 to 6 keywords to be selected. And these keywords must be Googly searchable keywords must be there. Like that, you need to identify the keywords 2 or 3 from title. You have to choose, and 3 from the text, the remaining research paper you need to choose. Like that, the keywords has to be presented. Next, you have the introduction also already finished. In the previous session, it was covered. And here in this, the introduction, 500 to 1,000 words we supposed to mention here, discuss the motivation of the study, motivation, how the researcher has motivated to take up that particular research. So that has to be mentioned, and provide the motivation of the study, means the important implications, activities, the important implication and gist of the research activity that has to be mentioned in that, because those are the elements that are motivated to do research in those areas. So that is why that should be mentioned. And provide background of the study in easy words. Background of the study, it's not that history, it's a background earlier, whatever activities, whatever things that are happening in those areas, that has to be taken and has to be mentioned. Next, you have the provide brief context to the readers. Say, for example, address the research problem, very clear words, in a very clear words, motivation of your research on the research problem, the claim of your contribution. These are all things you have to mention, because I'm going a little bit fast because these things are covered in the previous session. The significance of the contribution, your significance, means your importance of your research, that also should be mentioned in that. Cite a couple of original works. The citations are very important in the introduction, that you need to mention it, because the citations are supportive for the ideas. So that is why these are the things should be mentioned. Next, you have, don't write that's what I told you, history should not be mentioned here about the topic. An outline of the rest of the paper, outline, what you are going to discuss in the rest of the paper also should be mentioned in the introduction, in a brief, in a gist, in a single sentence. Providing text references in APA style. American Psychological Association, APA 7th edition will be there. That is there, that according to that style, you are supposed to put the reference citations in the text for text references. And you have another important one is review of literature. Already covered some of the points. Just 1,000 to 1,500 words better. Usually, commonly we incorporate under the review of literature. Under review of literature, these are all the things that should be taken care of, should be ensured in the paper. Say, for example, find out gaps that this study is going to cover. Earlier studies, what are the previous studies when you go through, you need to identify, as a researcher, you need to identify what are the things that are not covered in their areas. So those things you are supposed to take, and those things, on those aspects, you as a researcher should conduct your research. Otherwise, there is no meaning. If same thing if you conduct, then there is no meaning. So something, whatever is left over with them, that you have to pick up, that can only find out through when you go through the research, review of literature and all that. That has to be taken, and that has to be taken as a gap, and that gap, on the basis of that gap, you need to develop the objectives and hypotheses and all that. That will cover in the coming slides. And you have the examine present methodological related works of previous researchers. Yes, that is very important, as I mentioned just now. Minimum 15 to 20 good recent works should present. You are not supposed to take, when you are developing a paper, a research paper, you have to take some important, the recent areas, recent review of literatures that are conducted on your area. And in those recent research review of literature, what are the things that are not covered? That's what I told you, I mentioned just a few seconds back. Those things you need to take. So overall, the review of literature, 15 to 20, whatever you take and incorporate in your paper, that should be a related one to your topic. Otherwise, it makes no sense at all. So that is one thing. And you have the sources of literature. When you see, you have, all of you might be knowing, because they're all researchers and academicians, and many of you are majority of your doctorates. Books you have to go through, previous research papers you have to go through, popular media prints also available nowadays, and we're all in a technological era that we are all living in, that you can take it in as an advantage, and you can go through all those things. Bibliographies, different abundant bibliographies are available that you can go through it related to your topic. That's what I'm telling. Statistics, handbooks, data are available today in the internet also, that you can take up from different institutions, various institutions available, bulletins and all that. and conference proceedings, letters, diaries, memos, minutes of different institutions that can be taken, and you have to go through it. It's not that you have to take as it is the information. It will become, and it will attract the plagiarism and all that. It's very important. Nowadays, it is very dangerous, and you will be picked up, and you will be you will not be considered as a real researcher. So that is why very careful you have to take, and you have to go through it, and you have to take the identify the gist of that, the content of that, the information that you have to take, and you have to apply your mind, and what is to be new, you have to comprehensive aspects that you have to add to that, and you have to give your insights. So that is very important. And publish scholarly journals, you have to go through research reports, worldwide webs, internet, encyclopedias, manuscripts, unpublished, empirical studies, historical records, and the government bulletins, as I mentioned just now. All these things, a lot of the information is available at the review of literature. So these things which are related to your topic, that you have to pick up, and you have to go through it. A number of review of literature, if you go through, then you will become expert in your topic, so that you can present well about your topic. If you don't go through the review of literature, people say that the researchers and in the universities and other institutions, they say that you are insisted to go through many research review of literature. Why? Because the only reason is that you have to get a correct idea, broad idea about your topic, whatever you have chosen. So that is the main purpose behind it. Next, you have how to write a literature review. Simple, so with a bit fast we will go. Get latest published material, I told you just now, and identify the relevant documents, published, unpublished, critical evaluation, or the summary of existing work on topic. All these things you need to take into consideration when you are formulating the research review of literature, and framing the review of literature, writing the review of literature. That's very important. It can be some general and specific conclusions work done. So it's not that you are not supposed to take the entire the previous research information. So the overall the finding of that previous researcher in that concept, in that area, the overall finding, very important finding, significant finding, only that you are supposed to take up, and that you have to present it, and along with the researcher name and all that. That much enough. It's not that review of literature, each researcher information in a big paragraph manner, you're not supposed to take. Only finding, and that the area of topic, the area of research they have conducted, and the year, and and you are supposed to mention his name and all that. The sequence will be there that you need to follow to when you're writing for review of literature. And you have to avoid old published material also. You're not supposed to take, because it is outdated and it will not be suited to the present situation. So that is one area. And you have read and write your own. It's not that, that's what I told you, you are not supposed to take as it is the information, even review of literature also. It is, you are taking from somebody's review. So even then you have to go through it, and you have to take the gist of it. The finding have to be taken into consideration. That too, you are not supposed to take as it is. So the information you have to incorporate in your study from the other researchers. So that is why the gist and the finding of that previous researcher information only you are supposed to adopt, have to catch, and you have to incorporate in that. And avoid plagiarism and all that. Using phrasing. Use phrasing means the shorter, simpler, greater. It should be shorter, simpler, and greater. Everybody should understand. There should be ambiguity should not be there. Reader should easily understand. So use scholars summarizing the text and all that. These are all very, very important, what I discussed, what I mentioned just now. Now, organize to write literature review. So these are all things that we have, because I have 3-4 slides on review of literature. I will go a little bit fast, because there are so many slides are there to come. The other and others are others. The title of the paper, that's what I told you, report of the book, date, the date of publication. If it is a book or report, the publisher and the place of publication, all these things have to be incorporated in a systematic manner. If it is a chapter, an edited book, the title and the editor of the book, all these the things and the page numbers should be incorporated in a systematic manner, in an orderly. Next, you have if it is a speaker in a journal, or the title of this journal, volume and issue number, say for ISSN, the number, if it is edited, if it is a book, ISBN number, all these things, and the page, in which page, the content that you have taking, that all those things you are supposed to mention in the review of literature. Next, sketch of the objectives. This is very, very important. That's what I told you in the previous, just a few minutes back. What I told you is that review of literature is very, very important. You have to comprehensively go into the review of literature. On the basis of that, the purpose of the review of literature, that's what I told you, mentioned. The purpose of the review of literature is, once you identify the gaps, on the basis of gaps, you're supposed to develop the objectives. So the purpose of the study, of your identified the study. So on the basis of gaps only, the objectives will be identified. So gaps, first of all, find out. You have to find out the gap. How you can find out without going through the number of, the literature review? It is not possible for you. So you cannot make the objectives correctly. So that is why objectives are steps to answer your research questions. It is the research questions are there. Research questions also will be generated from the review of literature only. So review of literature, from review of research literature questions will be, the research questions will be there, gaps will be there. By taking all these things into consideration, you are supposed to frame the objectives. So in the objectives, when you talk about the objectives, it should be specific. Object should not be an ambiguity, because the objective has to be achieved in the entire paper. In the paper that you are developing, in that paper, the objective orientation must be there. Whether you have achieved objectives or not, that is very important. People will look into it. So that is very specific. It should be specific and measurable. It should be, the objective should be measurable. If it is empirical, it should be measurable, and it has to be reflected in the paper, and achievable. For example, some people, I will tell you simply, like, of course, you can have the data for NPS or their non-performing assets. Sometimes the non-performing assets data will not be available. You cannot get the data with regard to non-performing assets, because it is in the hands of the bankers and in the hands of the officials, bank officials, and all that. So that getting the data, non-performing assets, the information, to getting that information from the officials, it becomes difficult. So when you take such information as an objective, before you finalize the objective, only you have to see that whether you can get the data availability and all that. Also, you should think about it. On the basis of that, then only you have to go for the objective framing and all that. So that's why before you go for objective framing, you should think about the data convenience, data availability, feasibilities and all that. And realistic. The objective should be realistic and timely. So these are all the things you need to ensure in the objective. Then only your objectives are correct, and you can that paper will become in a meaningful paper, research paper. And writing of the objectives here, very important points, that you are supposed to start with the objective in an investigational manner. In an investigational manner, that sense has to come when you formulate the objective. Say, for example, objective should start always either with to analyze, to evaluate, because you're an investigator. You need to analyze the problem by obtaining the data, collecting data from various grassroots level and from secondary sources and all that. And for that, you have to analyze it and evaluate. You need to evaluate the data that you have collected and examine. You need to examine it whether belong to different categories. So you have to groups and subgroups. You're supposed to do it in the collected data and all that. And that is why you to examine like that, you have to start with the objective. If it is the objective, if you want to prepare with regard to examine, and this to study, to explore, to assess, right, to identify, to determine, to interpret, to compare with. Say, for example, if you take two states or two different areas, if you take for example, if you want to compare the two areas, then you need to start with the objective should start with it to compare with, like that. So these are all the things that you need to take into consideration while formulating the objectives. And next is very, very important aspect, the formulation of hypothesis. See, the hypothesis is, what is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a tentative statement. Tentative statement, it's just like an imagination or expectation, or the researcher's prediction about a particular problem. His prediction, his imagination, or his expectation may correct or may not be correct. But as a researcher, I am thinking my viewpoint is about the particular research, a particular problem. My viewpoint is like this. this is my hypothesis. This is my imagination. This is my prediction. I don't know whether it's correct or wrong, but my sixth sense, my imagination was telling that it may happen. The problem will be like this, like that I have imagined, I can predict. But whether my prediction is correct or not, that I don't know now itself. After conducting the study only, the researcher will come to know whether my imagination, my prediction or my expectation, whether it is correct or not, by testing the hypothesis. That will happen. So before going into the conduct of a study, then you need to prepare a hypothesis, formulate the hypothesis on the basis of the gaps only. And that also you have to go through the hypothesis also can be framed on the basis of the review of literature gaps and all that. So the gaps are very, very, because you need to create an idea, inculcate, you need to create an idea means, first of all, you should have a comprehensive idea about the problem that you have chosen. So unless you have that problem, that comprehensive idea in your mind, then you cannot frame the hypothesis. The expectations will not be there in your mind. Creation will not come in your mind regarding that problem. And you have the imagination also you cannot get, because without having the knowledge of a particular problem, how you will get the imagination and idea, you will not get it. So that is why review of literature is very, very important. That is why people says that the review of more number of review of literature advised to go through the researchers will be advised to the researchers to go through more number of review of literature to get an idea, perfect idea. On the basis of that, formulation of hypothesis and all that will come. Next, you have hypothesis, a relationship. What exactly the hypothesis means? It is a relationship between independent and dependent variables. What is independent variable? What is dependent variable? Here, I can tell you simple examples. The independent variable and dependent variable. Independent variable is not a problem. What is problem? When you talk about research problem, the problem is with the dependent variable. Dependent variable is always a problem. So the dependent variable, how do you identify how it will come? Because of some reason, because of independent variable, the dependent variable will be affected. Please try to understand clearly. I request all of you. So dependent variable is a dependent on the changes that are taking place in the independent variable. Say for example, here few examples I given you, just to go through it. You can view the slide also. Government welfare schemes and impact. Two things are there. Here government welfare scheme is an independent variable, and the impact is on the basis of the government scheme. Impact is happening. Impact in the sense the beneficiaries' income levels may increase, and their lifestyle may increase. The lifestyle may change. So that all will happen. So impact is dependent, and the government scheme is a independent variable, and the impact is dependent variable. So these two things are having certain relationship. Unless the first one is not there, second one will not. There is no question of existing the second one. Second one means the impact, and the first one is, what is that impact? Dependent. And what is the first one? That is independent, the welfare scheme. Similarly, you have other example also for better understanding. Smoking and lung cancer. If you smoke, then you will get the lung cancer. There's a relationship. Here in this sense, smoking is an independent and the lung cancer is a dependent variable. So that is when lung cancer depends on the smoke. So when you don't smoke, there is no chance of getting the lung cancers and all that. So that is why there is a relationship between the independent variable and dependent variable. So that dependent variable, independent variable relationship is nothing but the hypothesis. So hypothesis talks about the independent and dependent variable. So that is why, because independent variable impact because of the independent variable, dependent variable will be affected. That is what I would like to trying to place before you. Now, this is one thing. Next, you have the ice cream and child cry. So ice cream, if you give ice cream, child stop crying and all that. So that is why there is a relationship between these two. And you have the research problem is dependent variable. That is what I told you. Dependent variable is always a research problem. In the beginning I mentioned the research problem is always a dependent variable. And because of some independent variable, the dependent variable will be generated. That problem will be generated. So that is why you need to identify these two variables very effectively, very, very perfectly. You have to identify. Then only you can formulate the hypothesis. Otherwise, it is not possible. So that is why to formulate the hypothesis formulation is not a small thing. So you have to have a greater knowledge about the problem. Then only you can create the hypothesis, you can formulate the hypothesis and all that. And formulation of hypothesis, again, in continuation with the previous slide, deriving a hypothesis, obtain the from observations, experiences, expert consultations. You can consult the experts also with regard to your problem and all that, and they can give some inputs, so that what happens, your idea will become a broader idea, so that you can take effective, you can formulate the hypothesis in an effective manner, in a correct manner. You can do it. The review of literature, these all, you know, the components, elements of the formulation of, you know, the hypothesis. And you have the identifying dependent independent variables. That's what I mentioned. When you identify the dependent and independent variables, on the basis of that only you can formulate the hypothesis. So you should have a clear-cut idea, clear-cut awareness about the independent variable and dependent variable that you have to identify. And once you identify, then you can go for formulation of hypothesis and all that. Then you can formulate accurately. That's what my opinion, my intention to place before you. And it is a logical relationship between two variables. So that's what I told you. There is a relationship, logical. It's not, that's what I told you, smoking and lung cancer. If there is no smoking, there is no question of existing this lung cancer and all that. So there is a relationship. So sometimes, you know, the relationship will be significant. Sometimes the relationship will not be significant. That also will be there. That will be revealed through testing of the hypothesis. That we will come to know not in the beginning of the study. We will come to know after testing it only. We will come to know whether it is significant or not significant. If it is significant, then it is, you know, the alternative hypothesis. If it's not significant, null hypothesis. I will talk about all those things in the coming slides. Now, hypothesis is not required qualitative data. For hypothesis, qualitative data, hypothesis generally will not be required, because the hypothesis formulated on the basis of problem and the basis, that's what. So qualitative data, for qualitative data means what? Observations and, you know, the interviews, through interviews, or if you gather the secondary data, if you gather and for analyzation, for all those areas, hypothesis is not required. But qualitative means numerical. For numerical aspects of the hypothesis, you are supposed to frame it, formulate it, and you have to test it, whether it's correct or not. Your expectation or your imagination, whether it's correct or not, then you have to do it. And next you have the types of hypothesis. On the types of hypothesis, simple hypothesis, complex hypothesis, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, directional hypothesis, and, you know, non-directional hypothesis, causal hypothesis. These are all the things. So, for example, simple hypothesis, just a bit fast, I'll go there. I'll move. A relationship between independent and dependent variable is a simple simple hypothesis. That's what the example will be suited to that. That example, smoking and lung cancer, that example will be suited. And even government schemes and impact also will be suited to this. And complex hypothesis means it's a relationship between not one two variables, one and other variable. There are more than two variables will be there. So then in that case, the complex, you know, the hypothesis, all that will be taking place. For example, you know, for under complex hypothesis, you say, for example, drinking and smoking. So drinking and smoking leads to lung cancer and the other diseases. So multiple diseases may take place in a person. So that is why these are all, you know, the complex hypothesis, like that it will be. If it is more than two variables. Now, null hypothesis, as I mentioned in the previous slide, there will be no relationship between independent and dependent variable. There is no significance at all. And alternative hypothesis, there is a significance. This will be mentioned as H1, and the previous one mentioned as H0. Now, directional hypothesis. Under that, the relationship between variables and a specific direction towards a negative or positive. It may be negative, it may be positive. Anything may happen. So in that way, the directional, the name itself, you can understand a directional hypothesis. The direction may be positive or negative. That will depend upon the job satisfaction, nature of work will come under it as an example for framing the directional hypothesis under that. Next, you have non-directional hypothesis, relationship between variables and no specific direction towards a negative or positive. That is very, very important. It is reverse to the opposite to the previous one. And causal hypothesis, cause and effect relationship. In the sense, lower the level of blood sugar, lesser the level of infections. If blood sugar is lower, lesser, and the infections also will be lesser. That means cause and effect. Because of that cause, the effect will apply. So here, what is the example we can tell? Lower the level of the blood sugar and the lesser the level of the infection. Infections will be less if the blood sugar level is lower. So that we can take it. And you have the another important thing, research methodology. And you have, these are all the areas that we have: area of study basis, quantitative, qualitative research, primary, secondary data, sample size and method, methods, tools, data collection, and the questionnaire, schedule method, and all the statistical tools. These are all will be covered under this research methodology. And the one by one, if you just observe it, quantitative and qualitative study. The quantitative study, it can be counted, measured, expressed using numbers and structure. It is a structure. Quantitative is a structured one. It includes the population, the sample, population, total population. No researcher can take the total population. A sample of the population can be taken, and that will be tested. So include population and a sample, and then criteria of the population selection and method of sampling, right? And then materials mean the tests, the tools that you are going to take, the tests with the description, variables, nature of the data. On the basis of nature of data, data collection techniques, data analysis methods will be applied. It's not that without taking into consideration the nature of data, the data, first of all, you have to know what type of data, and for that, what tool is applicable for applying to get it test. So that is very important. Need to researcher, as a researcher, need to observe it clearly, and accordingly, carefully, you have to take the select the tool and all that for analysis. And next, you have to discuss software, hardware used during the study with their brand names and all that. So this is a very easy thing. And qualitative, when you come to, it is an unstructured. Qualitative is not a structure. That is structured. Quantitative is a structured. This is unstructured. Not necessarily measured by the numbers. Numbers will not be appeared here in this. Not necessary. It is not necessary to take the numbers for under qualitative research. And it can develop through charts, graphs, and all that. Will through the charts and graphs, and that with that you can develop the data. So here, secondary sources, existing sources will take under qualitative. Existing sources will collect, will take it, and will analyze it with the help of charts and graphs and all that. It is existing sources. But whereas the quantitative is not existing, we need to obtain from the beneficiaries or from the people. So then that is the difference between. That is why it is quantitative is a numerical, and this is a descriptive. Which one? The qualitative one is a descriptive. So number of participants, methods, approach, where the data was collected, all these things will come under qualitative. Next, you have the primary and secondary sources. When you talk about your primary data collection from the respondents, beneficiaries, directly from the grassroots level, you can get the information from the beneficiaries of this. For example, if a scheme is implemented by the government, and whoever is the beneficiaries, we have to go to them and we have to collect the information, first-hand information, we have to get it. That is what we call, the primary information that has to be after collection of data. You have to analyze, interpret, presentation, all that report writing will take place. Now, secondary sources, what I told you, just mentioned previously, a few seconds back. So the existing information, already the information is existed that you need to take for analyze. That information you have to collect, you can collect from the various institutions, bulletins, reports, studies, journals, books, and all that. This already I discussed in the previous few minutes back. And sample size, method, and types. So this is also very, very important. Once you collect the data, you need to analyze it. You need to analyze and interpret it. So for that, the sample, first, before you go for analyzation and all that, sample size. Unless you collect the sample, decide the sample, you cannot go to the grassroots level to collect the data. So first of all, before you go for collection of data, you need to decide the sample size and method, what method that you are going to adopt, and the types of, all these things you should know. As a researcher, you should be aware of it. And here the sample size, the sample is a selection of a small portion from total population. As I mentioned in the previously, total population cannot be taken. A researcher, it is very difficult to investigate that by taking the total population and all that. So that is why out of total population, sample population only will take. So that is what we call sample. Sample means taking a small portion of the population out of available population. Huge amount of population, small amount of population will be taken for testing of it. And types, when you sample methods and types, when you come to that point, probability sampling is there and non-probability sampling is there. Two types basically. And we have under probability sampling random selection without a pre-plan. Random selection is without a pre-plan. There is no pre-plan structure. The pre-plan will not be there. Randomly you will select the beneficiaries. And for example, for better understanding, teacher asking question to the students randomly. The teacher came into the class and without to whom she has to ask, there is no information, there is no idea in his mind, in her mind, and just she asked about the questions randomly. Whoever, there's 60 students are there in the classroom. So and X, she may ask X, or she may ask Y, or she may ask A. So randomly she will ask. So that is what we call, the random selection, that will be called as. And simple random sampling means, for example, under this you can take an examples for better understanding. Lottery method, lucky draw method are more appropriate under this sample random sampling and all that. And you have the stratified random sampling. These are all the methods. First you have to understand briefly, because these methods, under these methods, actually we need to give some the practicalities also. Unless we give the practicalities, you cannot understand in depth of the or insights of this types and all that. But practicalities, to give practicalities means this time will not be sufficient. It will take a workshop, has to be taken, and we need to conduct by using tests and hypothesis testing and all that, practically that all those things, it will take a separate session. This is only a gist and an idea of different the sampling methods and all that. So now once you know that, then you can go in and advance, as I told you, testing and all that, and how we have to identify the sample and how you have to go for conducting testing and all that, that we can go in a next stage. So this is primary stage. So systematic random sampling, under that you have the outer, say for example, that's why I have mentioned examples for a better understanding. Out of 100 people, say there are 100 people, select 10%. Out of 100 people are available, we need to select 10 people only. Then select every 10th 1% we have to select. That is the criteria we have. So then naturally 100 by 10, every 10th person we have to pick up. So then 10 people for every 10th, first 10th man, and the next 20th person, 30th person, 50th, 40th person, 50th, like that, 100th person. Every 10 we need to pick up, we need to catch one person, so that at the end of 100, then we'll get the 10 persons. So that is one type of, the stratified, the systematic random sampling and all that. And you have the cluster multi-stage sampling. The cluster or multi-stage, both are same. Multi-stage sampling in the sense, for example, the researcher, please understand, the researcher will take a huge, a state study, say for example. State cannot be taken for conducting of study. So then what happens? A state, first Telangana state, say for example, let us assume Telangana state we have to take. In Telangana state, some district you have to identify. In that district, entire district you cannot conduct. For entire Telangana state, we cannot conduct the study. It takes a lot of time. So that is why one district you have to select. Even in the district also, multi-stage sampling means first stage is the state, second stage is district, and even district also it is very difficult to conduct the test entire the whole district. So that is why under the district again you have the mandals. All mandals also it is not possible. Certain amount of mandals only, where the problem lies, where the problem existing, those mandals you have to identify, and those mandals, 1 or 2 mandals or 3-4 mandals you have to select. And those mandals also, entire mandal cannot be studied. It is very difficult. For the research, it takes a lot of time. So in those mandals, each mandal, how many villages? Like that, few villages in few mandals you have to select. In each village again, you have to identify the people. How many respondents? Who are the respondents? Who are the beneficiaries of that particular scheme and all that? You have to identify them. So like that, you have to stage-wise, state, district, mandal, then village. In village, whoever is the beneficiaries of that particular scheme, government scheme. Say for example, it is a government scheme. So like that, you need to collect the information. You need to segregate the groups and subgroups. So that is what we call multi-stage sampling, right? And then you have the next one, sample continuation, non-probability. Now we discussed previously what probability sampling methods and types. And now non-sampling method under that, non-random, opposite to the previous one. It's simple. Sample is selected by choice. It's not in the previous sample will be selected structured manner. But here the sample will not be selected in a structured manner, in a planned manner. In a planned manner, we'll select it. And non-probability means the sample selected by choice, not chance. By choice, it is your choice, the researcher choice. According to the researcher choice, it will be selected under non-probability. Say, for example, under that, convenience sampling, purposive sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling, these are all there. Just a few, all these four I will, in a simple sentence, I will explain you. Just convenience sampling, easily availability of the sampling, wherever people available, easily will take them as a sampling. For example, people will be available, you cannot find the people, you cannot go to the people because all the people are busy with their works from morning to evening. How do you find the people? So in that case, convenience sampling will be. Convenience means whoever is free. Say, for example, people are free, people will be available in the parks in the evening time or in the morning time. So you can go over there, but your data has to be, your problem should be related to them. That is very important. That has to be taken into consideration. So convenience sampling can be applied by taking the people wherever the people are available in the parks or in the public areas. If the people are available from them, if you want to take the data which is related to your problem, then you can collect from them easily. For that, the name is convenience sampling. And purposive sampling. Purposive sampling, they select the people as a sample, whoever is having a particular habit. Smokers and lung cancer. How do we know that? So the so-and-so person is a smoker, so-and-so person is a lung cancer patient. How do we know? So purposely we have to select those people only. So when you take only smokers into consideration, only smokers for your research, you have to identify the smokers, whoever is having that habit, or the patients, whoever is suffering with the lung cancer, you have to identify them. And then you have to conduct a study on them about their opinions and all that. That is one thing. And you have the quota sampling. Quota sampling means a particular set of people. Say, for example, male quota, female quota, reservations are there nowadays. So in colleges, admissions, when you when we go for admissions and all that, earlier some years back, we used to prepare the lists, and we used to first list, second list, third list, and take into consideration the reservation aspects also into consideration. We used to prepare the list and all that. So that happens. So quota. For male, how many seats should be available, should be placed, and for female, how many seats are to be allotted. So that has to be, that will come under quota sampling. Snowball sampling. What does it mean then? So snowball sampling, the name is something, the interesting to know. The nature of this sample is more difficult to get. So the sample is very difficult to get. Certain times, some of the sample, which is related, say, for example, people with habit of using drugs, which is very, very illegal. So, but how do we find out? We want to conduct a study on them. So how do we conduct? How do we search them? It is difficult. So you need to find at least one person of the drug affected person. If you find one person, then with the help of him, another person can be identified. With the help of him, another person will be identified. Like that, with one, you have to identify first one person of the affected drug habituated person. With the help of them, other people's information also we can get from him. So that is what that all will come under snowball sampling, right? And then you have the another one is that method of data collections, methods of data. Under that, you have the interview method, interview and schedule. Interview is for interview schedule. And what is interview? It is a communication process between two people, interviewer and interviewee. The person who asks the questions, the interviewer, very well, and interviewee, the person who answers the questions of interviewer. So that is one, interview. And structured interview. There in interview also there are two things. There are structured interviews, unstructured interviews. So structured interview predetermined. The questions will be prepared in the beginning only before go for study, conduct study. So, and unstructured means there will be no formation of questions in your mind as a researcher. You will go as if like that, and you will contact the people, and whatever information they give, you will take it. It's not that whatever information they give, you ask them. You will also, you will ask them, but according to their intelligence. See, your own questions sometimes will not work out with those people because their intelligence levels are less. So when their intelligence levels are less, your questions will not be work out. So that is why unstructured frame of mind, if you go there, and on the basis of their intelligence levels, you can ask the question. That is what we call unstructured interviews. And interview schedule is a tool, what to ask, how to ask, when to ask. These are all the interview scheduled tools and all that. Next, you have under questioning and questionnaire. The questioning relates to questionnaire. What is this? Open format questions and describe, and it is related to descriptive. Open format questions mean descriptive questions related to descriptive, describe in an essay type. So for example, qualitative will come under that. Qualitative aspects will come under that. A descriptive, an essay manner you are supposed to write in a descriptive manner. And you have the closure format questions means related to yes or no. Yes or no. Only they will say either yes or no. That is the such type of the questions are closure format questions. And you have the observation, as I told you, structured observation, unstructured observation. Structured observation is a planned one, and unstructured observation is a non-planned one, as I mentioned in the previous slide regarding that some information. Now, methods and tools of data collection of participative, next category, participative observation. Participative observation means, say for example, cricket match is going on. In cricket match, captain is MS Dhoni. MS Dhoni is playing and watching because he has to coordinate the things in the game also. So that is why he is participating. He is participating in the game and he is a decision maker also. So that is why he will come under the participative observation. Next, non-participative. He will sit under non-participant observation. The observer will sit in a gallery and he will observe it. He will not participate in the game or in the event. He will not participate. So that type of the persons, the people will come under non-participative. Similarly, you have other type, rating scales. Rating scale is a tool to express the opinion on the product by scaling. A product, a specific product, whether good or bad, very good, satisfied or not satisfied, bad. Like that, some scaling will be there. You are supposed to put your scaling about that particular product on the basis of quality of the product. And you have checklist. Checklist, anyhow, all of you may be knowing. When you conduct an event, then before conducting the event, the organization of the event will check it. So in that, various points will be there. The first point, whether it is over, finished or not. Second point, whether it is over, finished or not. Third point, like that. We'll check one by one point wise, which are all the points which are related to the that particular event. Then on the basis of that, we'll take it and we'll finish the event, or we'll organize the event like that. So that is called a checklist and all that. And you have under that electricity, ventilation, water. Whether if you are go for inspection of a college, usually what we check whether ventilation is there, electricity is there, infrastructure, proper infrastructure comes under all these things comes under infrastructure, ventilation, water is available, drinking water is available. All these things will be checked one by one according to the checklist. So that is one thing. And CCTVs, all of you might be knowing, and closure camera with that closure circuit camera also will observe many things and all that. So these are all the areas. Next, when you come to the data analysis refers for the separate components for individual examinations, and the process of obtaining raw data and in turn converting into useful for decision making and all that. And it is collected and analyzed to answer the questions. So data analysis, once you collect the data, you have to analyze it. By the analyzing the data only, you will find out some some findings you will come out, and with inferences and all that you will take, that will help you to take decision making as a researcher. So that is why for that analysis, SPSS statistical package for the social sciences nowadays is available, and so many new generations have come that you can use it, and you can for analyzation of the data that you have collected. And basic application of this program is to analyze scientific data related with the social sciences and all that. So next you have continuation factor analysis tools. What are the tools? Factor analysis. Just I will give you the important insights about the tools, some of the tools, and how it has to apply and all that. Some workshop has to be conducted for knowing for giving awareness to the participants. So factor, there are a few important tools are there. Factor analysis means it describes variability among observed, unobserved. So variations, the difference will be found out through this factor analysis. And influential variables are the factors. Influential variables means the one variable will be influential on another variable. So the difference of the variability, the variability of the difference of the two variables can be tested through this factor analysis and all that. This is one of the tests. And F test is there. The F test is designed to test if two population variances are equal. Two population variances, for example, you take two groups of population. One is from urban population group, another one is a rural population group. Then in that situation, what happens? The urban population group ideas will be different, and rural population ideas will be different. Then in that situation, you need to you can apply the relevant test, that is F test. So then you can identify the variability difference, you can identify with this. So that is one thing. For example, I told you, I have given you here the example also. If you can go through it, you can understand. If you had two data sets with a sample of one variance of 10 and a sample of second variance of 10, then the ratio automatically, 10 by 10 is equal to 1. So like that. So then you have the another one, t-test. T-test is the difference between the two sample types. So that means to find out the difference in the interests of two kinds of groups. Two kinds of groups where you take the difference if you want to conduct it. Then the t-test will be differentiated, that can be used in two different mentalities of the people, or two different tastes of the groups of the people if you take it. And the produced output out of it is meaningless. If it is not properly taken out, the differences, then it is of no use or meaningless. So that is why t-test for basically for that purpose, we need to take the t-test and we'll check it, the variables, the differences and all that. And z-test, it determines whether you have where two population means are different, when the variances are known and the sample size is large. When sample size is large, then you need to apply the z-test, right? I am going a bit faster because the time is given time is almost coming ending. Now SEM, structure equation modeling, and it is a multivariate system, statistical analysis technique, and it is used to analyze structural relationship between measured variables and related variables. Measured variables, related variables means related variables are the measured variables only. Some variables among the variables, some variables are not completely coincide, but related variables. So taking those into consideration for that, if you want to test, then the SEM is the best and suited measure to test it. And next you have the another one, tools for data analysis in its nature, chi-square in continuation. It is a measure of the difference between the observed and the expected frequencies of outcomes of a set of events variables. So here the chi-square generally what it tells us, measure difference between the observed and the expected frequency. Observed frequencies, expected frequencies. Expected frequencies which we expected. We have expected some amount of the difference, but when you conduct a test, the observed whatever you occurred, whatever the actual facts that occurred is called observed. So this difference between these two through this chi-square test, a table will be there. By using that table and the values of out of it, the measurement has to be done. And the data used in calculating chi-square test must be random. It's very important. Keep it in mind. Random, raw, mutually exclusive. Mutually exclusive means, for example, here I will give you one small example. Large sample is not suited for this. Small sample only. Draw from the independent variables, and I will just read this. Drawn from independent variables and drawn from large sample. Drawn from large sample. Example, the results of tossing. Here, that's what I'm telling. If you toss a coin, you may get either toss or you may get either the head or tail. We cannot say that. So the probability either may be toss you may get, or the tail you may get. 1 by 2 chance is there. So for that purposes, this test clearly can be used and for analyzing that data and all that. Next you have ANOVA. An analysis of variance is a statistical tool approach to compare events, groups or processes and find out the difference between them is a statistical significant. It's very important. MANOVA also there. Under that, the multivariate, MANOVA means multivariate analysis of variance. It is to compare data of random variables whose value is unknown. Very simple, right? This is one thing. Next, we have the another important point. 1 minute. 1 minute. What happened? Yes. Yeah. Next, you have the tools of data correlation, multi-regression. These are all we usually we teach in our classrooms also. Multi-regression analysis, multi-regression in the sense you have the analysis is powerful technique used for the predicting the unknown value of a variable from the known value of 2 or more variables. For that, the multi-regression analysis will be taken for testing. And correlation, relation between the two quantities of two quantitative variables. The relation it will find out by using the correlation test and all that. A high correlation means that two or more variables have a strong relationship with each other. A weak correlation means that the variables are hardly related. So that is very important. That you have to find out whether it's a weak or hard one, strong one. And standard deviation, all of us know, a low standard deviation indicates that the values tend to be close to the mean. A high standard deviation indicates that the values are spread to over a wider range of data. That is one thing. And analysis presentation. When you come to the analysis and presentation, if you permit me within 5 minutes, I will complete. Can I go for 5 minutes, sir? With your permission.
With pleasure, sir. With pleasure, you continue, sir.
Yeah, please.
No problem.
So analysis and presentation and interpretation data, select the method of analysis, whether qualitative, descriptive or quantitative. That has to be taken. First, you have to decide it. And the qualitative analysis includes observation. That's what I already discussed in the previous, when I discussed about the methodology and all that. Qualitative analysis includes observation, document and interview method. All these things will come under that. And quantitative analysis, as I already mentioned, analysis includes with a lot of numerical data that already I discussed. Data to be arranged in a fashion to create interesting among the readers. In such a manner, the data has to be presented, has to be presented, has to be arranged. That is one thing. And the interpretation for the table to start with. When you start with the interpretations, a table, if you take a table or figures or charts, if you take. So a table number, for every table number should be given and the name also should be given. If you don't give the name and the name and the table, if it is table number and the name is not given, then it becomes a lot of the ambiguity. By seeing the components of the table, we cannot decide what is there in the table and other. So if you give a number and a name if you give, and automatically number also should be given, so that in so and so number table, so and so title of the table, these are the components that are parameters are there, and according to those parameters, some test is conducted. Like that, it will be, interpretations will be there. So the interpretation should start with the table number 1 shows, explore that, says that, describes that, tells us, reveals us. Like that, you have to start the interpretation. Interpretation presentation, when you complete the analysis part, data analysis part, and when you generate certain tables and charts, you need to explain the tables and the graphs like this, in this fashion. The table number 1, say for example, it is the first table number 1, and the shows that, or explore that, or reveals that, says that, describes that, tells us, like that. These things are to be mentioned before you interpret. And in the every table, what you have to interpret, what you have to present, what you have to inform. See, all the components, all the parameters cannot, it is not possible to explain. Not possible to give in the interpretations. So whatever parameter, higher parameters, lower variable, higher values and lower values, better you take in middle one of the variable you can take, and you can end the interpretation of that particular table. So that is why you need to take the correct information, correct table, and in that table, all the components, all the parameters cannot be not necessary to explain. The higher value and the lower value, in middle, some value you take, and it should be meaningful. Meaningful values only you have to. That is why I'm telling you higher value, lower value, and middle. Some of the middle values that are generated from the analysis, those values you take and you can interpret in the table. But the table should start, the interpretation should start with what I told you, the table number 1 explores that. You have to use either explores that, says that, describes that, tells us, reveals us. You're not supposed to use the same word repeated to all the tables. So on the basis of the information of the components of the table, parameters of the table, you need to select one of these and you have to use it. It's not that for every table, for every interpretation, you have to use only the says that, to describes that, to tells that, to reveals that. It's not like that. So you have to choose which is more suitable to your interpretation for that particular table or for that particular chart. Like that, you have to choose one of these words and you have to start the interpretation. The starting of interpretation I'm talking about. Next, you have data should address the problem and offer suggestion. So your data has to be, whatever data is analyzed, that data should give address the problem. So problem has to be important. Very important point is problem has to be addressed finally. And then end of the day, we are talking about the problem of a researcher, so that has to be addressed. And for that problem, you have to offer the suggestion also. That is very, very important. And then that is very important key point that you should keep it in mind as a researcher. Data interpretation involves a presentation, explanation, findings, and also making conclusions. These things must be there in the interpretation part of every, whether it is a chart or it is a table or whatever it is that you have generated through data analysis. And presentation in the form of tabulation, charts, that's what I told you. Data should present in simple language, understandable. Data, the presentation should be in simple language. A layman should understand. The person who doesn't know the science background, medical background, or mathematical background, people should understand. Once they go through the language, they have to understand. The charts and graphs we use. Why should we use the charts and graphs instead of tables? Because for easily understand. A layman also can understand by seeing the chart with the different colors and pie charts, histograms, and all that we use for research purposes. For secondary data analysis, we use sometimes all these things. So what for this secondary data, what for this tools we use means for easy understanding. And at the same time, the language also should be taken care of. That's what, because ultimately research findings should understand the society, should understand the people. Ordinary people should understand, and it should be helpful to the society. That is very important. First and foremost, the researcher has to keep it in his mind, and he has to go ahead like that. Next, you have the data should present in a simple language, understand, and brief and important data to be protected. It should be, the interpretation should be brief. You are not supposed to give a lengthy information, some 10 lines, 15 lines. Is it not? It is not necessary. The sweet and short and sweet information, but the information, important information should not be skipped. That is very important. That you have to keep in mind, and accordingly you have to interpret. So that's why I told you what is the hint I given you, the higher value measurable value and a lower measurable value, and in between whatever significant values are there, you explain them. That's it. It's not that the entire data or parameters that you have to explain, not necessary. That is one thing. And next, because the findings also will be generated on the basis of those values only. That is why. Next, you have the number, title, and sources, also very important. Number you have to mention, as I mentioned you a few minutes back, and you have the sources also. Sources also you have to mention under the table from where that information, for where that data has you have obtained, collected. That primary source, if it is a primary source, or if you collect from secondary sources from RBI bulletins or from other institutions, if you get, you have to mention that you have to name the institutions from where you got it. That is, it's not that your own data, it is you got from others. You got from the primary sources. You got from the secondary sources. That information you are supposed to mention under the source. Next, you have number, title, sources, and all these things you are supposed to mention, and the minimum, maximum measures, what I explained you, and then results. When you come to the results, present the data, the facts with what you found. The facts should be incorporated, should be mentioned, calculated, discovered, observed values. All these things should be mentioned in your presentation systematically. Next, you have present the output of the experiments. Output of the experiment. From the experiment, what is the output that you achieved? Whether it is related to objective or not. That you have to keep in mind, and accordingly, you are not supposed to deviate from the objective. Very important. Because you have to achieve the objectives, accomplish the objectives, which is related to your topic. So that is why it should not be deviated. So that you have to take into consideration. Once it is over, you have to take into consideration and present it, the results. And then highlights the main findings. It should be clear, easy, understand. That's what I mentioned a few minutes back. If data are abundant, use supplementary materials also, some supportive elements also, supportive documents also you have to mention at the end of the paper as an appendix. All those things are the supportive documents, supportive information. And use good quality image and give capitation, good quality images. If you take secondary sources of some images, that you take the good quality of one. And discussions when you come to the provide logical and scientific analysis of findings is very, very important. Your finding should be logical, and the analysis should be logical. One should understand it. The scientific achievement of the objective or scientific achievement of the finding should be it should be flow the information like that in that discussion. And you have the citations also should be given to support your discussions and results. So then next 5 to 10 citation, that's what I told you, to support your arguments and all that should be given, should be ensured in your discussion and all that. Extra principles, relationship, generalizations, These are all must be ensured in the discussion areas, discussion part, and in that text. Avoid extensive citation. Too many citations not necessary. Only citations and the text is not from your side, nothing is there. And only citations if you incorporate, it will not make any sense. So that is why citations, how many citations are required, those many citations only are supposed to take, and those citations should be supported to your material, to your information, to your opinion, to your discussion. That is one thing. Don't mix the results with discussion and all that. Avoid sudden introduction of new ideas. Compare with a few existing studies and like this. These are all the things in the discussion area you are supposed to ensure. And the next one is the scope for further research. Further research always should, you have to mention the further research, because every researcher, any researcher cannot investigate the total information, total area. So some areas will be left out because it is very difficult to investigate the entire the problem and all that. Some areas will be left over. So what are the areas left over with that researcher, that you have to, that is what I told you, research gaps. Those you have to take it and you have to tell it. These are the areas in future, the future researchers can go for conduct of studies in these areas. That also you have to mention, because those areas you did not cover. So when you did not cover these areas, what are the probable areas that the other researchers can cover? That also you have to mention. So this is one important area. Then you have writing conclusion. Last part we are coming to. So conclusion should be written in a very clear words. It is very easy. Just I will read out. You can, all of you can understand very easily. It should explain how the objectives and objective accomplishment must be mentioned in the conclusion. How you have achieved the objective, and you have the provide justification of the how you have justified, how you have achieved the objectives, how you have justified the discussions and the analysis, data analysis and the presentation. In those areas, how you have justified your thoughts and opinions, your hypothesis and your imaginations, prediction, how you have justified it, whether it is correct or not. If it is not correct, how it is not correct. If it is correct, why it is correct. So in a simple manner, it's not a big paragraph you are not supposed to give, because it's a conclusion. Now, briefly summarize some of the main points. What are the in the above paper, whatever important points are fallen, all those things you have to catch it and you have to mention here. Important one. Very gist of the important points you have to take and you have to mention here. And next you have to explain how your work advanced in the field, in the advances in the days to come in the same field, how it is your work will be advanced. That also you have to mention in one single sentence, and suggest future experiments. It's nothing but a future, the future experiments on what areas the people, researchers can move forward and all that in a single sentence you have to. These are all sentences, in one single sentences, even in a few words you have to mention all these things. So these are all the things that the writing for conclusion, and in the conclusion part you are not supposed to mention these things. So what is that? Don't repeat the abstract result. Abstract, whatever you have mentioned, that you should not copy it and paste it here. It's very important. Your paper will not be published anywhere. So that is why it should be, conclusion means a broader idea must be given. That's all. This should not be taken into consideration. What is that? Repeat the abstract results should not be taken. Don't quote if possible. You have conducted test. How do you say that if possible? If possible words are not at all advisable to use in the conclusion part. Don't focus on a minor point or issues. Now here it is not the time to focus all these things. You have to give a conclusion part, a gist of conclusion on the overall paper information only you have to give. Don't use appears to be, it seems to, probably. You have already conducted. There is no need to use all these words. You have concluded, conducted, you have concluded, and you have drawn conclusions also. You have come to conclusion. Now you are giving that conclusion out of your research. So that is why there is no question of it. The probably appears to be, it seems, it will not exist. These words will not be existed here. Will not exist here. You are not supposed to mention. Don't start conclusion with any of these words. In conclusion, finally, in the end, all these things, you are already in conclusion. There is no need to again repeating finally, in conclusion, at the end. These words are not necessary because you are already there in the conclusion. Now these are the things. Next, references. Just fast, within 1 minute I will complete it. Arrange alphabetically. Avoid citing references articles, and avoid citing edited books articles. Edited books better you don't take. If you take, then the originality of the those citations where you have to observe it and you have to see that you have to quote it. But better you should, if you don't, unless you take the originality of the citations from the journals or where they have quoted. If you don't take it, just simply if you mention edited book or edited book volume this much like that, if you mention, it is not correct. You are not supposed to mention that word edited book. The reference is taken from the citation is taken from the edited book like that, and edited book number, volume, all those things you are not supposed to mention. This edited book is not correct for using the references and all that. So verify the information to each reference against the original publication. That's what you, if you take it, where is the original publication? What is the, where it is, where it lies, the originality, that you have to take it. If possible, you can get it and you have to incorporate, or you can express here in this. Now journal citations are more stronger. That is why journal citations better you take always, because the journal citations, good journals will be there, Scopus journals, WebEx journals, and UGC, KDLS journals are there. These are all the authenticated journals. The publishing in these journals are not that easy. You have to follow so many rules and regulations and all that. Then only it will be, you can publish in those things. So that is why those citations can be taken, and you have to mention the citations from where, which journals you have taken, and you have to mention that. Avoid self-citations. Your own citation should not be mentioned. You have to take the citations from the reputed journals and all that, not your own citations. Avoid excessive citations also not necessary to use. Similarly, references of APA, we use, generally we follow APA 7th edition. What is that APA 7th edition? As I mentioned in the beginning, American Psychological Association. Article format should be like this. For example, Srinivasa Rao K, myself, 2020, I wrote published an article, income generation, article name, year, first my name first, and my surname will be next, and then 2020 year, and then income generation, title of the paper, and then you need to mention here which journal you have published, humanities, social sciences, and volume number and all that, ISSN number, DOI number. What is that new DOI number? Digital object identifier. So that number also you have to mention if it is there. If DOI is there, that is more authentic. Better, I suggest all of you, please, all of you, publish when you are publishing, you just ensure whether your article in whatever journal that you are publishing, whether it is having the DOI or not. If you have the DOI, then your article will be more authenticated. So, and you will get reputation also. You will get name and fame in the APA score also. It will be given importance for that. So that is why please ensure all of you the DOI, journal DOI and all that. In such journals, better you go for publication. But it's not that easy. You have to take, I told you, you have to take all the required guidelines you need to follow. Guidelines will be changed from one journal to another journal. You have to go through the website of journal, and then you can get the guidelines, and accordingly you prepare the paper and you can go for publication, and it will be published. Then that will be helpful for your academics. And book format, when you come to the book format under the references APA 7th edition, Gupta PK, like this you have to mention. Gupta PK 2006, introduction, the book name you have to mention, and then Tata McGraw-Hill, from which organization the book has come published, that you have to mention. Under the case of e-book, you have to mention like this name, year, and the name of the book, e-book, and then finally you have to mention the link of that particular book. And next you have different citations styles are there. These are all simple, and American Psychological Association 7th edition, Modern Language Association, MLA style, Turbian style, IEEE style, Harvard, Vancouver, and then ABNT, ACS, ACM. These are all the styles of different styles. So this is about a brief introduction, because just I have given a basic knowledge I have given, because the time will not be sufficient when you go for data analysis and interpretations, presentations and all that. And when you talk about sample and how to sample has to be chosen, these are all practical issues. The practical issues we cannot say in theoretically in 1 hour, but to my knowledge, whatever my knowledge is allowed me to give theoretical background of all these areas that I have given. I am very much thankful for giving me this opportunity by the SR and BGNR Government Degree College, respected principal, and the vice principal, and the convener, Madam, what is she, whose name is Athota Samsara Garu, and then Madam Anjani Madam, yes, sorry, Anjani Madam, all these people, and Ramesh Garu, and all other people, eminent people are there. And I'm very much thankful to you. And last and not the least, and Dr. Chary Saab, who has suggested my name to your college for to act as a resource person. I'm very much thankful, but it is given period of time. Small time is only 1 hour, 15 minutes or half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours only taken. But the important aspects still it is not covered. As every aspect of the article writing, we can take 2 hours, 3 hours. For example, abstract, we can talk on that 3 hours, 4 hours. And methodology, very important. We can talk 2 hours, 3 hours like that. And sample size, practically we have to see, we have to show the sample size, how to determine the sample size, and what data has to be, what test has to be used for what type of data. These are all practicalities. The practicalities is also very important. Unless you know those practicalities, it is sometimes it is difficult to write the paper. Such very constructive paper, writing the constructive paper is difficult. But all these things is a theoretical background. First of all, you should have a theoretical background. Then only you can go for the practicalities and all. I hope definitely all of you have benefited with this. My small knowledge, whatever knowledge I have, a little bit knowledge I have given you. I don't think whether I have did justice or not, but given me good opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you one and all. Thank you very much. And sorry for the inconvenience that I have taken a long time, and the time that you have given, stipulated time, I was not able to finish my lecture in the stipulated time. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no problem, sir. No problem, sir. We also did not look at the watch actually. We are so engrossed in your presentation. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. Now, dear participants, if you have any queries, please post in the chat box, 1 or 2 minutes. If you have any queries. Okay. Thank you very much. So in the meantime, whatever you have mentioned in a gist, in a nutshell, I will like to present to those. This will be useful to those who have joined late. And you have spoken about need of the research paper, origin and selection of topic, process, title, and abstract. What are the ways in which abstract can be chosen? An introduction, how to introduce, ROL, review of literature. What are the various ways in which review of literature has to be taken up? The objectives of your study, and hypothesis. What do you mean by hypothesis? What are the various kinds of hypothesis? And research methodology that is going to be involved, and quantitative and qualitative studies, and about various sampling techniques and methods and tools of data selection, data analysis, presentation, interpretation, results, discussion, conclusion, references, and citation styles. All those topics you are able to cover in just 1.5 hours.
Thank you very much.
Don't worry, sir. We are very, very happy nowadays. People like T20 matches rather than test matches. Even though test matches show the original capacity or capability of individuals.
Yes, thank you, sir.
But within 1.5 hours, you covered various topics at length, sir. You have thrown light on various issues. Sir. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Now it is time for proposing vote of thanks, and I request Patota Sambashivaravu garu, our Hindi assistant professor, to propose vote of thanks. Sir, please take over, sir. Sambashivaravu garu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, in the meantime, dear participants, I am sharing link, that feedback link. You please fill it up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Andarki namaskaram, sir. Actually, vote of thanks నేను హిందీలో చెప్పాలా ఇంగ్లీష్లో చెప్పాలా అని మాట్లాడుకుంటూ చివరికి తెలుగులోకి వచ్చేసాను సార్. నో ప్రాబ్లం. ఓకే సార్. అందరికీ నమస్కారం సార్. అందరికీ ధన్యవాదాలు. ఎందుకంటే మీ అందమైనటువంటి సాయంత్రాన్ని ఒక కళాత్మకమైనటువంటి పరిశోధన పత్రాన్ని ఎలా వ్రాయాలి అని చక్కగా డిజైన్ చేసి మనందరికీ అందుబాటుగా తీసుకొచ్చినటువంటి మన కళాశాల ఐక్యూఎస్సి విభాగం వారి కోసం ఈరోజు మీరు మీ విలువైనటువంటి అందమైనటువంటి సమయాన్ని కేటాయించారు. అందరికీ ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి విచ్చేసినందుకు అందరికీ ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాము. మొట్టమొదటిగా సార్, ఇది ఒక ఫార్మల్గా ఉన్నప్పటికి కూడా ఇది ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ చేయడం అనేది నేను గౌరవంగా భావిస్తా ఉన్నాను సార్. మొట్టమొదటిగా మా కళాశాల ప్రిన్సిపాల్ శ్రీ రత్నప్రసాద్ గారు, వారు అందుబాటులో లేకపోయినప్పటికీ కూడా ఈ మంచి ఉపయుక్తమైనటువంటి కార్యక్రమాన్ని మేము ఏర్పాటు చేసుకొని అందరికీ అవసరమైనటువంటి లెక్చరర్స్కి, రీసెర్చ్ స్కాలర్స్కి అందరికి కూడా ఇది చాలా ఉపయోగంగా ఉంటుంది అని ఆలోచించి మాకు గైడ్ చేసినటువంటి మా కళాశాల ప్రిన్సిపాల్ గారు, మా రథసారథి, ఈ ప్రోగ్రాం మొత్తానికి చైర్పర్సన్గా ఉన్నటువంటి ప్రిన్సిపాల్ గారికి కృతజ్ఞతలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. అలాగే ప్రిన్సిపాల్ గారు అందుబాటుగా లేకపోవడం వల్ల ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి విచ్చేసి మరింత దీనికి శోభాయమానాన్ని తీసుకొచ్చినటువంటి మా కళాశాల వైస్ ప్రిన్సిపాల్ గారు శ్రీ జీవన్ కుమార్ గారికి కూడా మేము ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. వారు వచ్చి మమ్మల్ని అందరికీ శుభాకాంక్షలు తెలియజేసి కార్యక్రమాన్ని కొనసాగించడానికి చక్కగా ఒక ఎటువంటి నిర్విఘ్నంగా కొనసాగడానికి వారి మంచి మనసుతో కూడుకున్నటువంటి విషెస్ని అందించారని భావిస్తూ వారికి మరొకసారి కృతజ్ఞత తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. మరీ ముఖ్యంగా చాలా అరుదుగా ఉన్నటువంటి మన తెలంగాణ ప్రాంతంలో ఉన్నటువంటి రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్స్, వెరీ డిస్టింగ్విష్డ్ రిసోర్స్ పర్సన్స్ గా మేము మిమ్మల్ని భావిస్తూ ఉన్నాం సార్. సో అడ్మినిస్ట్రేటివ్ లో చాలా వ్యస్త అంటే బిజీగా ఉంటూ కూడా డాక్టర్ తిరువెంగళాచారి గారు ప్రిన్సిపాల్ గా ఉంటూ వారి బాధ్యతలు నిర్వర్తిస్తూ కూడా మన కళాశాల ద్వారా వెబ్ జూమ్ మీటింగ్ ద్వారా ఏర్పాటు చేసినటువంటి ఈ ఆర్ట్ ఆఫ్ రైటింగ్ రీసెర్చ్ పేపర్ అనేటువంటి అంశం మీద మాట్లాడటానికి ఇంత విలువైనటువంటి సమయాన్ని సందర్భాన్ని మా కోసం క్రియేట్ చేసి ఈ వేదిక మీదకి వచ్చి ఇక్కడ జాయిన్ అయినటువంటి ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి లెక్చరర్స్ కానీ లేకపోతే రీసెర్చ్ స్కాలర్స్ కానీ అదర్ పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ ఉత్సుకులైనటువంటి అందరికీ కూడా చాలా విలువైనటువంటి సందేశాన్ని ఇచ్చారు సార్ ఉపయుక్తంగా. అంటే మీరు పరిశోధకుడికి ఒక సునిశ్చితమైనటువంటి పరిశీలన శక్తి ఉండాలని, అట్లాగే ఒక ఓర్పు ఉండాలని, నేర్పు ఉండాలని, వివరణాత్మకమైనటువంటి ఒక నిర్మాణాత్మకమైనటువంటి కళాత్మకమైనటువంటి ఈ పరిశోధన పత్రాన్ని రాసుకోవాలంటే దీనికోసం ఎంతో కష్టపడాలనేటువంటి మీ విలువైన సూచనలు సలహాలు అందించి చక్కగా గైడ్ చేశారు సార్. సో ఇదే రకమైనటువంటి కాబట్టి మీకు మేము మనస్ఫూర్తిగా కళాశాల తరఫున, ఐక్యూఎస్ తరఫున, ప్రిన్సిపాల్ గారి తరఫున, మా కళాశాల అధ్యాపకులందరి తరఫున మీకు ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. మరీ ముఖ్యంగా సార్ డాక్టర్ కె శ్రీనివాసరావు గారు చాలా అంటే ఒక రీసెర్చ్ పేపరు రాయటానికి ఇంత సమయం సరిపోదు, ఇది ఒక నిర్దిష్టమైనటువంటి సమయాన్ని ఫిక్స్ చేసుకొని మాట్లాడుకోవటం కాదు, దీని మీద ఇంకా విస్తృతంగా మాట్లాడవచ్చు అనేటువంటి విధానంలో సార్ మీ పేపర్ మొత్తంగా నిజంగా ఇది ఒక రీసెర్చ్ పేపర్ లాగా మీరు మాకు ప్రజెంట్ చేశారు సార్. చాలా ఉపయోగంగా అనిపించింది. ప్రతి ఒక్క పరిశోధకుడు కూడా ఈ రకమైనటువంటి మీరు ఇచ్చినటువంటి ఇన్సైట్స్ చాలా విలువైనటువంటి అమూల్యమైనటువంటి ఇన్సైట్స్ సార్. వీటన్నిటిని కూడా ఒక ఆర్డర్లో ఇచ్చేసుకుంటే మీరు చెప్పారు ఇది ఎంత పరిశోధనాత్మకమైన పత్రం అయినప్పటికీ కూడా సామాన్యుడికి సైతం అర్థం కావాలి, అప్పుడే దీనికి ఒక అర్థం పరమార్థం అనేది ఉంటుంది. మన రీసెర్చ్ ఆర్టికల్ను కూడా వేరే వాళ్ళు సైటేషన్స్ లో పెట్టుకోగలుగుతారని మీరు దీనికి చాలా సమయాన్ని కేటాయించారు సార్. అనేక రకమైనటువంటి సాంకేతికమైనటువంటి అంశాలను కూడా దీనిలో మీరు చర్చించారు. సో ఒక ఖచ్చితత్వంతో కూడుకున్నటువంటి పరిశోధన పత్రాన్ని కళాత్మకంగా ప్రస్తుతీకరించాలంటే, ప్రజెంట్ చేయాలంటే చక్కగా హార్డ్ వర్క్ చేయాలి అని మీరు ఇచ్చినటువంటి శాంపిల్ సర్వేస్ దగ్గర నుంచి ప్రతి ఒక్కటి సార్, ఇది ఆర్ట్స్ వాళ్ళకి, హ్యుమానిటీస్, సైన్స్ అండ్ కామర్స్ ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి ఉపయోగపడే విధంగా జనరలైజేషన్ చేసి మీరు చెప్పారు సార్. మీ విలువైనటువంటి సమయాన్ని మాకందరికి ఇంత 1.5-2 గంటల పాటు కేటాయించి వచ్చినందుకు శ్రమ కోర్చి ఇచ్చారు సార్. ఈ జూమ్ మీటింగ్ ద్వారా ఇది సాధ్యమైందని భావిస్తున్నాం సార్. ఇన్ని రోజుల పాటు మిమ్మల్ని మిస్ అయ్యామేమో అని అనిపిస్తుంది. సో ఇప్పటికైనా సరే మిమ్మల్ని విని మీ విలువైనటువంటి సూచనలు సలహాల మేరకు సార్ మేము కూడా మా రీసెర్చ్ ఇది ఒక పేపర్ కోసమే అనిపించినా కూడా ఒక పిహెచ్డి థీసిస్ ని, ఎంఫిల్ డిసర్టేషన్ కూడా ఎలాగా చక్కగా నిర్మాణం చేసుకోవచ్చు అనేటువంటి వివరణాత్మకమైనటువంటి మీ పరిశోధన పత్రాన్ని మా అందరి కోసం మీరు ఈ రోజు వినిపించినందుకు, ప్రజెంట్ చేసినందుకు మరొకసారి మనస్ఫూర్తిగా ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
అట్లాగే సార్ ఇది చాలా చక్కనైనటువంటి ఉపయుక్తమైనటువంటి అందమైనటువంటి ఈ ఏమంటావు 1 డే జాతీయ వెబినార్ ని డిజైన్ చేసినటువంటి మా ఐక్యూఎస్సి కోఆర్డినేటర్ గారు అంజనీ సూర్యశెట్టి గారికి సార్, వారు కొంచెం పర్సనల్ అంటే బాబు కొంచెం హెల్త్ బాగుండకపోయినా కూడా ఈ రోజు ప్రోగ్రామ్ నిర్వహించాలి అని చెప్పేసి నిన్నటి నుంచి కూడా చక్కగా రమేష్ గారితోనూ నాతోనూ మిగతా ఐక్యూఎస్సి మెంబర్స్ అందరితో, నాగూర్ సారు, అనురాధ మేడం, మరి ముఖ్యంగా మీరు ప్రస్తావించారు డాక్టర్ చైతన్య గారు, వీళ్ళందరితో కూడా సంప్రదించి అనుకున్న ప్రకారం ఈ రీసెర్చ్ ఏమంటాం సార్ ఈ రోజు వెబినార్ జరగాలని చెప్పేసి ఆమె ఏమంటాం సార్ డిసైడ్ అయ్యారు. వారి యొక్క అంకిత భావానికి మేము నిజంగా కృతజ్ఞతలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్.
కంగ్రాచులేషన్స్ టు మేడం.
ఎస్ సార్, ఎస్ సార్.
నైస్ నైస్ ఎక్సలెంట్
సార్. మేడం అనుకోకుండా ఈ రకమైనటువంటి ఇదిలో ఉన్నప్పుడు ఈ బాధ్యత మొత్తాన్ని కూడా మా శ్రీ రమేష్ గారికి అప్పగించారు సార్. సో మేము జనరల్ గా మీకు తెలుసు కదా, ఒక పని ఒకరికి అప్పచెప్తే వారే చూసుకుంటారనే ఇదిలో కొంచెం రిలాక్స్డ్ గా ఉన్నప్పటికీ మళ్ళీ వెంటనే దీనికి కనెక్ట్ అయ్యాం సార్. రమేష్ గారు అలా కనెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ మొత్తాన్ని చక్కగా పరిశీలన చేసుకుంటూ దీన్ని మానిటర్ చేసుకుంటూ మోడరేట్ గా మేడం బాధ్యతల్ని సారు చేసుకొని చాలా విజయవంతంగా సక్సెస్ఫుల్ గా ఎటువంటి ఇంటరప్షన్ కూడా లేకుండా దీన్ని చాలా బాధ్యతాయుతంగా నిర్వర్తించినందుకు రమేష్ గారు, కామర్స్ లెక్చరర్ గారికి మేము మనస్ఫూర్తిగా ఐక్యూఎస్సి తరపున, కాలేజీ తరపున, ఇక్కడ పాల్గొన్న వాళ్ళందరి తరపున ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. అలాగే ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి వచ్చి మీ అతిథి అంటే ఫార్మాలిటీగా అతిథి సత్కారాలతో అతిథికి వారి యొక్క పరిచయ పత్రాన్ని చదివి వినిపించినటువంటి శ్రీమతి అనురాధ గారు, మా మ్యాథమెటిక్స్ లెక్చరర్, అలాగే శ్రీ నాగూర్ గారు హిస్టరీ లెక్చరర్ కి, అందరికి మిగతా వారందరికి కూడా మేము మనస్ఫూర్తిగా ఐక్యూఎస్సి తరపున కృతజ్ఞతలు, ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటున్నాం సార్. మరి ముఖ్యంగా ఈ రోజు సార్ మేము చూసుకున్నటువంటి కార్యక్రమంలో ఎక్కువ మంది చక్కగా పార్టిసిపేట్ చేశారు. ఇంత టైం దాదాపు 2.5 గంటలు 3 గంటలు అవ్వస్తుంది సార్. ఇంత టైం పాటు కూర్చున్నటువంటి విఘ్నులైనటువంటి లెక్చరర్స్ అందరికీ, అట్లాగే పరిశోధకులకి, ఉత్సుకులైనటువంటి పరిశోధకులకి, ఇంకా మిగతా పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ అందరికి కూడా ఈ శుభ సాయంత్రం సమయంలో మేము ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటున్నాం. మీరందరూ ఇంతసేపు చక్కగా వెయిట్ చేసి విన్నారు. ఇటువంటి ఉపయుక్తమైనటువంటి కార్యక్రమాన్ని చక్రంగా వినియోగించుకోవటానికి మీరెంత సమయాన్ని, మీ విలువైన సమయాన్ని కేటాయించారని, నిజంగా సార్ ఈ ప్రోగ్రాం అందరికీ చాలా చక్కగా ఉపయోగపడుతుందని మేమందరం మనస్ఫూర్తిగా భావిస్తున్నాం సార్. అందరికీ థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ఆల్ అండి. All of you are connected. Very nicely arranged. Very nice.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all, sir. Sir, just one last word. One cannot propose vote of thanks for oneself, and I propose vote of thanks for Sambashiva Rao sir because he designed the certificate.
Sir, right.
And immediately, almost all the participants, whoever have submitted their feedback form, would have got certificate. So please check your mail inboxes, and at the same time, see, dear participants, if you have joined belatedly, no problem. In the chat box, I have mentioned my YouTube channel. Within 15 minutes, it will be uploaded in YouTube also. It will be available in YouTube also for the benefit of late joiners. Okay. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, dear participants, and most importantly, our respected resource persons for sparing valuable time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Sir.
Thanks, sir.
Sir, ఇంతటితో ఈ కార్యక్రమం ముగిసిందని అందరికీ తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Right.